Good evening. I had been considering playing something else tonight, but I could not resist the allure of the sky. Just make sure that we are up and running. Category is correct. Everything looks good. Well then, let us continue our journey. We last left off. I recall we had some business, I think, in Lustrum. A delivery of explosives. We'll be looping back to retrieve nectar from Magdalene's, and I think we're going to try to take out a scribe spinster on the way. Let's see. In our hold, we have some proportion of the munitions. We have a bit of crockery to take to Port Avon. I would like to get a little bit more fuel and supplies for the trip, but I don't want to overfill the hold. Let's see. And do we still have those port reports? Yes, these still need to be turned in. That will be quite the payday. Right. And after turning in the port reports, we'll have to consider our routing to Lustrum. We might as well... Now, if it weren't for this ridge here, I would go through Port Avon first. But, no. I think we will be going down through the Bonnie Shepherds into Lustrum. But first, this delivery. Let's see. A danger of spoilers, I mean, to some extent. Currently, our ambition is wealth, rather than the truth. So, the degree to which you'll find spoilers, I think, doesn't detract from the experience too heavily. I wouldn't worry about spoilers for Fallen London. It's dreadfully difficult to actually get into real information in the stories in that game. Now, as far as spoilers for Sunless Skies, well, certainly you will get spoilers from Sunless Skies. To the extent that there's something worth spoiling in Sunless Skies, I hope to find it. So, in due time, there will certainly be some kind of spoiler. But there are 4 areas in the game, and I've only ever been to 2. Gather up a few more ministry-stamped permits. I've got a lot of favor. Excellent. Salon stewed gossip. Anything you hear, just consider it chatter from a fellow captain. 5 permits. And I think an invitation to Perdurance. Let me get 2 of those. I'm going to need these soon. Now then, next stop, Lustrum. That's right. Because I was going to Port Avon after Lustrum, I wanted to take out a scribe spinster for a trophy that I could take to the hunting club. My destination is either way the Bonnie Shepherds. Ah, that fungal meteor is still here. Let's see. Danger to shipping. Perhaps I can learn something. And it is risky to burn for fuel. What can we learn? It seems it's an easy check. Probably not much. It does not respond to movement, heat, or light. It does, however, seem inclined towards sound, emitting a puff of spores in the direction of 2 chattering crewmen. You perform further experiments. It ignores the noise of the engines and is unresponsive to music, but it does respond to singing. Apparently, the fungus likes voices. All right, then. This appears to be the proper heading. Ah. Coffee certainly does tangle the throat. I may take a break for tea a bit later. This dreadnought is eyeing me as it pivots around. Let's see, let's see. All right, making our way through. We can either cut immediately south and go through a bit of a trickier journey through the desolation of Saliba. I might actually try for this. If I go this way, I will brush past the grave of the Silent Saint. And the trouble with that is there's a curator over there. It's actually more dangerous than whatever's out here. Even though this is a plenty dangerous path already. So, as we had discovered last time, our goal will be to exploit range to take out scribe spinsters. There we go. The damage from the Shriek is very, very minor. Get one shot on target there. That's a death cry. And a well-earned trophy for us. The crew set about the creature with hacksaws while the quartermaster prepares a board. Once the entrails are dried, they nail it firmly there. The hunting club will no doubt wish to replace it with something in mahogany or bronzewood once you deliver it, but this will do for the moment. Very well. We can make our way to Lustrum, which would bring us about the northern edge of the desolation. I think, well, this is a bit of a horror. We're going to take some terror for being near this. But if there does come about another scribe spinster, we'll try and take it out. Once kissed by a long-dead sun. The remnants of a judgment. What's this? A homestead? No, ruins for a saying. It's these sigils on the ground that are causing the terror. Looking directly at them causes you to go mad. It's caught us. That shriek is a detection. We're out of range, just slightly. A handy bit of damage, and we're overheated. There we go. Ouch. Ha! The Canton Carries pulled it off course. Got it! And we've learned something. This is the facet that we earn through a narrow escape. We can get a vision of the heavens and a tale of terror, in addition to the regular exchanges. Let's see, hearts and veils. Acceptable. My mirrors are already quite good. Well, yes, that is most of what you're getting about here. Sky train, decked with missiles. Though if I had proper missiles, I would be having a better time. I believe this is just standard cannon, a serviceable one, the Grimulkin. Let's see. Yes, I think my hearts are not what they could be, for certain. You have walked through the valley of the shadow of death. How has it changed you? You have learned to be cautious. Death waits in the sky, kept at bay only by a few inches of plating and the fires in your engine. Let's see if I might be able to carve apart bronze wood from the spinster. Excellent. The axes rise and the axes fall. A lambent mist complicates the endeavor, but eventually your expedition returns with a haul of bronzewood planks. Hours of mind in Lustrum, good for going faster than possible. All right. Seems the Canton carries lost interest. First things first, we'll set about our delivery. Nectar for auction. It's different. Partial delivery of munitions. There's a lead on souls. Let's see. Now, what is this opportunity? I see. Lustrum is home to a single raucous, rancorous auction house held in the back room of a hanged man on the occasional Wednesday. Within these grimy confines, miners and factory owners rub shoulders, salivating at the bit, the curious oddities and occasional bargain that the lugubrious auctioneers put before them. Asking how the auction house comes by the goods in such quantities, however, will earn you a one-way ticket to a small pit in a cold field at the foot of the mountain. Some things are best left unspoken. We can risk 450 or 600. Let's see what we can do. This is only a 30% chance to succeed, despite winning at all costs. Yes! Five gourds of Chorister nectar. This has the approximate value of about 600 sovereigns, earned at only 450. Sweet Jane has an offer for us? What's the request? She limps to the window. Snow batters the window pane. The shadow of the mountain is all but lost in the blizzard. The lantern light means the offices of the Windward Company are just about visible. I was raised by the company. Children are faster workers, you understand. Her fingers drum on the windowsill. Such a waste. Where they see men, they see labor. Where they see time, they see chains with which to bind us. But where they see death in the skies, I see victory. She turns to you and smiles. Bring me nameplates torn from London's ships. I will see you adequately compensated. I see. Hunting London dreadnoughts. Difficult indeed. A search for the amenable host's identity? The locket is passed around the camps of prospectors. Most scratch their heads, others sigh and look away. An elderly prospector approaches, carrying her hat in her hands. You're the one looking for old Gray? She sighs. Long dead. Shot, south of the mountain. Wouldn't share his hours? Fool. No point rising high on the mountain if there's no one at the bottom holding you up. This evidence is once again not conclusive. I will write a port report. Here we should find the runaway acrobat. You find the acrobat fast asleep in the camp outside the mine. Their clothes are soiled by coal dust. It takes some effort to shake them awake. Once conscious, they push your hand away. You're here to take me back to the circus, aren't you? Good luck to the miners without me. Who will they send in the upper crevices now? They burrow back into their blankets. So it goes. Just give me 15 more minutes to rest, and I'll join you. There was a bit more to do. We have a settler to drop off. They have arrived at their destination. Whether or not they still wish to be here is another matter entirely. This is where she wanted to go. 100 sovereigns, a modicum of experience. She gives you a smile as weak as the tea she's been brewing aboard your engine before making a quick departure. A small purse is all she's left behind in her cabin. Ah, weak tea. The most vicious of insults. Have I done this before? Ah, doesn't seem there's much to be gained. As for the golden tea shop, I believe there is more to enjoy. More to sample. I believe I've already sampled Empress's favor. Let's try Eleutherian gold. It looks like tea, the occasional sparkle. A single sip and you feel slightly dizzy. 2 sips and you struggle to find your legs. The sense of pleasurably disconnected bonhomie lingers for a few hours. Interesting. Now, upon the claim fields, let's examine the prospects on our very own claim. I see. I didn't actually order my crew to start mining last time. I didn't realize. I'll assign 5 more of them. Don't forget about us, Captain. There are now 10 in the Lustrum mining crew, and I'll order them to begin. Now, do we try to pick up these souls? We have to be sailing away from here. We have some crockery to unload in Port Avon, but that's about it. So we'll be traveling with a nearly full hold for a while. I'll pick up 2 of these, so that I have space for a little bit more supply. My supply is about to tick over, and it's probably just a little light to make this journey. Moving right along. I suppose the mountain must extend very far down. Quite daunting. So, I'm going to go north to Port Avon. I want to hug this right wall for a while to avoid things out to the west. Ah, that's not something we can collide with. Sailing around the Ruetz Ridge. At Port Avon, we can sell the crockery and unload our trophy. Then I think we'll be back to Winchester and then Magdalen's with some gourds of Chorister nectar. And now that I've acquired these further gourds of nectar at a bargain, we can unload this quite comfortably and be left with more to spare. If we still had tea on board, I could take tea with the Repentant Devil. I do have tea back in Winchester. We can finally delve into that bit of intrigue. Given our hull damage, we can see to some cheap repairs in Port Avon as well. A slight adjustment. I want to spend at least a little bit of time peering into this northern nook. I think there is actually might be a passage to Port Avon through there. We can also try to bring on more crew in Winchester to replace the people we've left mining in Lustrum. Bit of scouting from Arcady. Nothing to report. except that the sky is vast and the winds bite. Well, this would generally seem a friendlier corner of the sky, though it seems a few raiders. I've lost friends to the marauders who hide in the woods. Yes, we've got a couple of them out to the west there. I think that one may be cutting back around to take a look. Yes, there are certainly quite a few of them. Quite a lot of them. Well, don't mind me. Ouch. Best watch out, you seem to have hit one of your friends. Well, a little bit of damage taken, and we didn't spend the time to actually blow them all up, so not much gain, but I'm not really interested in spending time on that. Discontent. Instead of watching the stars, is it true? If you organized a rota of observers, would you see it happen? But it will mean exposing the watchers to the stars' perilous light. A failure. Sometimes the risk isn't worth it. Your careful schedule lasts until the third night, when 2 of the watch persons are struck down by an overwhelming melancholy. Their eyes are dazzled with starlight. You're forced to relieve them of duty before the ailment affects anyone else. 2 crew members lost to this. 2 crew members lost to spare me 1 supply. I do understand that the 3 ambitions you can select at a captain's onset are they're not the full extent of the ambitions you can aspire to within the game. Well then, that was aggressive. Carve it up. Handy. One such ambition is the Traitor King's Cup, is the Martyr King's Cup, which I believe refers to the Holy Grail. Quiet day, she prepares. Excellent. Only 25 sovereigns for 26 hull. It's a bargain indeed. Now on to the Nowhere Inn. Ah, I'm unwelcome. Here, bit of gossip. And I should write a port report. Not much to share about the news. Now, in the Nowhere Inn, we'll head upstairs. Deliver a Scribe Spinster trophy. The stout veteran refuses to touch it. In my day, we never had nonsense like this, you know. It was all marsh wolves and ambulatory fungus. Good, sensible hunting. I mean, what even is this? I feel like it's watching me, and it doesn't even have eyes. Jenkins, put it somewhere I won't see it. So, about my membership. Ah, yes, the stout veteran twiddles his bushy mustache. Of course, you will be most welcome, once a spot opens up. Dead men's shoes, I'm afraid, and our chaps do rather cling to their place at the bar. But do come and meet everyone. I'm certain they will be thrilled to hear your stories, and slip your name to the right kind of people. You have technically been accepted into the club. You now have 1 cryptic benefactor. Cryptic benefactors, unexpectedly, are kind of a consumable resource. It basically represents a one-time favor. And that's about what we're going to get out of the hunting club, I believe. Turn in this crockery. There's a bargain on verdant seeds. We can take those, sure. And then, let's see. We're not really in a pinch for fuel or supplies to make it back to Winchester, which is our next destination. I'll take on just a little bit. We'll make our way back out of here. So, we're off to Winchester, followed by Magdalene's. If we get an opportunity for more crew, it's about time to bring more on. And given our current amount of wealth, we'll be able to upgrade our vessel very shortly. Might be after we've delivered this nectar. The clamor of New Winchester can be heard on the wind. Familiar as a disagreeable uncle. I believe that's about always the same message on the approach to New Winchester. Oh. Bit of something floating. But we don't have the hold space for it right now. I don't think we'll be passing by it again either. That is an excellent reason for me not to have purchased that little bit of fuel, as it wasn't strictly necessary. That hideous strength. Tensions are high, and the crew are making mistakes. The preternaturally fertile seeds of the Reach must be stored with the utmost care. A flicker of light, a lap of moisture, and they burst into violent growth. Like the sack in your hold, from which questing vines have grown, nodding around your cargo. You can remove it back to the galley. You won't save the seeds, but you may increase your supplies. You can try to salvage it, which is very risky. I'm going to throw away sacks that show signs of quickening. I've lost a sack of verdant seeds, but my terror has fallen. Your crew are glad to see them go. One tells a story of a captain who acted too slowly, whose locomotive was choked with ferns. Only a very, very slight terror reduction. I think it was about a 1% terror movement. I think some of your terror reductions are actually based on or scale with your hearts. Is this music terribly loud? It's very overwhelming to my ears. Although I can fix that. Let me just make an adjustment. There we go. Now I can hear myself speak again. Let's hire on crew. Nope, we've already hired on crew fairly recently. Unfortunate how I seem to go through those. Ah, 5 barrels of ours for the ringmaster. We can make good on that without too much fuss. Stopping in at the bank. I will be... Let's see. Let's take on a bit of tea. Weigh these souls, these verdant seeds. Let's see. They need 3 gourds. I will have my conversation. And 5 hours. Let's speak with my officer to free up some hold space. About these enemies of yours. I've had 3 particular friends, he says. 2 of them, I think, are dead. And as for the 3rd, it would not be her style to look for me. But if I were to trace this matter, it would take me to Carillon and to London, and to the Well of the Wolf. He catches the corner of your glance. You asked about my enemies, I know. But when you get to my age, it's the same thing. All right, Carillon, the Baroness of Hell in London, and the Well of the Wolf. Where is the Well of the Wolf? There is a friend, a colleague, in the earliest part of my life. She died, as far as I know, in the fighting before the devils went to Caduceus and escaped the judgments. But that was then. If she is less dead now, I would expect to find her at the Well of the Wolf. She always did have a taste for dramatic protests. He looks unapproachably morose for a few minutes, then adds, I have no taste for places that celebrate defeat, but I will go where I must. see, I see. To assemble the devil's evidence. Okay, so we'll need to visit each of those places. And with that, my hold space is a bit more flexible. 5 barrels of ours we can bring on from the bank. So we'll go to Magdalene's and then afterwards, Palmyre and Plenty's. Or the other way around. It doesn't really matter to me one way or another. And then over here in Victoria Market, we'll take on 1 additional fuel and supply. Very good. Off to Magdalene's. We have news for the proprietor after all. Actually, I will go to Palmyre's first, because I'm not sure where I will need to go to acquire outfits for the clown, which is the last task to repair the circus. I need to deliver the acrobat's twin, and making good on two more prospects in a loop is going to put us well within range to afford the Pelennor-class trader, the vessel I wanted to have before going to London. Then we can finally be off to Albion, where we will meet, or we will find either incredible profit or, death in the sky. It's always about 50-50 with these. More verdant fungus. Same thing we've learned before, but visions of heaven are handy to have. Though we're not working to compile a series of sky stories or anything of the sort. It doesn't quite line up with our ambition. They're nonetheless a resource. Nervous map management. I enjoy a good circus. Lost souls at bargain prices. For visiting Palmyre's, we can get a strong terror reduction from the periodic visit through the new arrivals. Listen to their stories. Yes, that's a 5% reduction. Handy. I can collect more free tickets every time I come back here. Report. Behind the tents. Reunite the acrobatic twins. I wondered when we'd see each other again. One twin remarks to the other. The other replies, "How did you know I'd return?" "You always have before. I'm glad you're all right." They wander off, each catching the other up as to what's passed in their time apart. Peculiar sort. Now then. Costumes for the clown. 2 of Cats. The costumes are not for the clown, but for his pet geese, Cuddles and Ruffles. He's not funny without them. His best acts require them, the ringmaster says, but they won't perform unless they're in costume, and unfortunately the geese have a habit of destroying them after a few shows. We've a friend in Port Prosper who will be happy to supply us with costumes. We've the money, but not the transport. Very good. See, I believe that's... No, I forgot to unload my hours at the bazaar. Profit indeed. A gentleman must prepare for his retirement, the ringmaster says. I intend mine to be long and indolent. You join him at the fire to drink cups of chorister nectar and watch the stars wheel. Also, he's got a bargain on hours. That's hilarious. Such is occasionally the random nature of trade in the game. Sometimes somebody wants something but also sells it to you cheaply. Always, wheeling and dealing, building up the nest egg. We'll cruise by the Memorial to the Unknown Rat on the way to Magdalene's. So, we could go up to Port Prosper to make good on this bit of information that, to make good on this pickup for Palmyr's, which would theoretically wrap up Palmyr and Plenty's Magnificent Circus, which is a pretty cool thing to have done. But I'm not sure if I want to take a whole nother trip around, rather than just making my way to Albion. I feel as though I've forestalled on leaving the Reach for long enough. That's a lovely little patch of sky. Emerald green. Theoretically, we also have calls to go to Hybris. It's just singularly unpleasant to do so. One by one, your crew remove their hats. Right then, round this bend, we cut to the west. I believe you can only receive the terror reduction from a Wonder once about every fortnight. But it's very good to route that in across your regular trade to keep your maintenance down. There's just an excellent compilation of various things. You have your economic taps, your economic expenditures, and your capacity all being managed in turn. Various maintenance fees, one of which is combat. Although combat is also a means of gaining resources, so it goes both ways. I greatly enjoy having a lot of little economic interactions, little consistent economic interactions. A sort of diligence in trade. Looks like a homestead. Might we get something out of this? Ah, we can trade with the collector and get something random. Why not? An eager swap. An aromatic casket. Ah, a caddy of dried tea. Let's see, I think that's generally a bit of a benefit. You can't directly sell uncanny specimens. So it's difficult to evaluate them. Can we stop at Magdalene's, Captain? We've been too long in the sky. The impertinence. Here we are at Magdalene's. I'm going to recruit crew from the market. Usually gets you about 1 or 2 people. Not bad. I believe I still don't have a moment of inspiration. Yes, I think you can reliably get value from specimens in... I don't recall the name of it. It's like an academy, or, is it Benthic? No, there's an experimental area where they can collect, uncanny specimens, and I think they also accept otherworldly artifacts, and they can give you some rather unique ship parts. I'm gonna think that I'm wanting to increase this bit. There we go. Modify that size to match my own camera. Quick report. The Royal Society. Yes, that's the one. The amenable host. What will you tell the amenable host? You pursued his memories enough to have an answer for him. The amenable host closes his hands around his returned locket. Now it comes to it, I'm not sure I want to know. But I've sent you out. He drums his fingers against his cup. We don't spare our guests the truth, so why should I be any different? He fills goblets for you both. Well, out. Let's see. Shot dead on the mountain. Strike-breaking factory owner. The truth. Ah, there are 2 manners of telling the truth. There was nothing conclusive to find. He might not have been any of them. You have found nothing conclusive. Which would he prefer to have been? He gazes at you for a long, solemn minute. Abruptly, he stands and removes 2 polished glasses and a filled decanter from a box in the wall. He places 1 glass before you and fills it deep. I suppose I should commend your nerve in giving me that answer. He fills his own glass and finishes it with 1 swift swig. My own self, cindered ash in the kiln of my ambition. He gives you a crooked smile. So goes the teaching of Magdalene's. He goes to a drawer and takes out a sealed envelope. For all your trouble, I am who I have chosen to be. I have that at least. Told the amenable host that all of the memories he has are his. Is there anything more for him to say? How are things at Magdalene's? The amenable host has an attendant open a fresh bottle of sparkling wine for you both. He tells you of movements in the Winchester War, of old longings quelled, of old enmities reignited, of the arrest of the passage of time. To the human heart, memory is stronger than all Her Majesty's hours. Very good. Backstage, you are permitted to socialize with the attendants and observe behind-the-scenes life at Magdalene's. There are always jealous glares when someone parts the violet curtain and keeps the attendants' private space from their work. Backstage, relaxed chatter and the scratchy sounds of music over the gramophone fill the air. Clouds of powdered makeup and tobacco wash over you, mixed with lavender perfume. At the bazaar, we turn in chorister nectar. The attendant takes the gourds from you. I've done this before, actually. Oh, we've gotten some terror reduction for our trouble. We could pack on even more verdant seeds. Sovereigns are sovereigns. You do not refuse a bargain. Let's see. I can't treat my nightmares. My terror is much, much lower now. It's quite nice. A little bit more fuel and supply, and I believe we will make our way back to New Winchester, where we will be acquiring a bold new vessel. There's something a tad unexplored here. I don't know about another place where you can use them reliably. I'm certain there's something to be done with them in Eleutheria, as well as perhaps the Blue Kingdom. Okay, nothing of note in this nook. About a 20 or 30 terror reduction, all in all. I'll have almost enough money left over that if I could buy a new engine if I wanted. I should probably hold on to the cash until I get to London. There are more things to spend it on there. Further upgrades. I can also take my drill back out of the bank, just in case I run across any bronzewood. Always handy. Oh, a wreck. The oblique strategies. Enter through a yawning tear in the hull. Partial success. You'll need to be quick. It sounds like it could tear itself apart any moment. Insulated into your sky suit, lamp held high, you lead them towards... Interesting. The magazine, to retrieve munitions. I lost a crew, gained 10 terror, but I have another carefully packed crate of munitions. You carry crates of shells and powder back to your vessel. No sooner are you back aboard than the wreck breaks apart, spilling its remaining contents into the sky. It's only then that a head count reveals you're one short. This does seem to keep happening. I have seen a means of getting caged catches out of the deal, somewhat. I've seen cases of trading them, I think. Would you, there we go. Going apart. Captain's cabin. This is usually good for rumors. Salon stewed gossip. Yes. Gossip is, of course, one of those things that it is a bit difficult to get any value out of, but get a little bit. The extra 10 terror in exchange for the munitions is a little uncomfortable. But that's about a 40 or 50 sovereigns value out of a single wrecked ship. And that's pretty good. Usually I expect to make only about 20 sovereigns out of those. If I can find a good opportunity to sell the munitions, which currently exists in Lustrum, I can make good on 70 sovereigns. Selling nectar is usually my go-to. Delivery of port reports. An additional 400 sovereigns for me. We definitely have enough to buy assaying gear as soon as we get to London, which I do like to have. Then again, assaying gear is usually good for acquiring esoteric sorts of things, which would be better if I was trying to write a Song of the Sky. I think you can sometimes find a moment of inspiration among ruins. That would be very nice. Can I hire on crew yet? Yes! More crew. Now then. At the bazaar, Port Avon would like seeds. Port Avon sells seeds. We can do this on our way out, though. Settlers at the station speak of a harvest of sacks of verdant seeds available at homesteads throughout the Reach. We'll put a couple things away. Now, the engine yard, going up for a Pelennor-class trader named the Candid. Yeah, the Spatchcock reclaimed locomotive is our original vessel. No more. Do we need to re-equip things? No. It's seen about things fairly. We can bring this aboard, though, for a while. Equip it. Come on. You can do it. There we go. That's sensible. I notice you've lined up hearts with terror. But there is a sense to that. Carillon is your repeated terror for gains location in the Reach. Let's see. Given what we currently have equipped, we could afford the Britomart. Let's do it. There we go. Bank the old one. Should be able to make faster progress around now, less wasted time. Get a bit restocked. So, we'll be passing on these verdant seeds. We don't have more crockery. And then afterwards, I'm just going to Albion. That's true. A lot of the checks that result from having high terror, you can get through with good hearts. We need a little bit of repairs, and we only need repairs because the extra hull from the bronzewood shielding is not accounted for in terms of when you bump up using that, it doesn't restore your current health. It's not proportional. Otherwise, the fact that you can unequip it and equip it at any port might cause some peculiarities. Let's see, is there anything else to do in the city? No. All right. We've got verdant seeds for Port Avon, and after that, we're moving on to Albion. Now that we're faster, I think our turning radius might be a little worse. We've got a bigger hold, but less crew quarters. And we make a delightful little chugga-chugga noise now. Yes. Yeah, every part you add and everything you hold in the hold occupies weight, which causes you to burn more fuel. Traveling light is actually recommended whenever possible if you want to save on fuel. And because crew eat supplies over time, getting places faster by virtue of a better engine is a bit of a savings on supply, but costs you more fuel. Fuel is cheaper than supply, so maybe that's good? I don't know. I think it's just convenient to take less time between stories if you have a faster engine. It also means you can evade certain things that might be nasty. Running away is often a valid tactic, if your engine's up to it. Settling in at Port Avon for a spell. At the bazaar. A few seeds. Done. An extra bonus of 50 sovereigns. And a bit of Port Avon welcome. Not bad. There are no bargains available here. We've cleaned them out. In that case, quick journey through to write a port report, and we'll be out of here. Now, notably, we could have also stopped by Carillon to wrap up some final business. But honestly, it's going to be a very, very long time before I visit the Well of the Wolf, so I'm not concerned about what we're doing with the Repentant Devil. I'm also not concerned about going to Leadbeater and Stainrods to examine the... what is it we had to examine there? To examine the Phlegmatic Researcher's latest work. And I'm quite done with the Trader's Wood for now. I'll come back later. For accomplishing things such as expeditions in the Trader's Wood, I think the Belvedere-class escort is actually a fine vessel. It's a sturdy little thing with quite a lot of crew quarters available. Sometimes crew quarters is all you need. Come now. Lined up the shot. Oh, I can't use my canning equipment. Ah, I blasted it to smithereens. Only a cloud of stony chunks remains. That happens sometimes. Yes, yes. You do have to make sure you're making good exchanges once you have a better vessel. You can't be running on higher operating costs, higher hold capacity, and then not doing anything with it. But with only 6 items in the hold, we can make very fast progress for very little fuel. Ah, the Peacock Wind. Your remaining food swells, sprouting milk-filled nodules. One of the nodules develops a tiny mouth and begins to sing. By the way, that is why the peacock wind is terrifying. It's very weird. You'll accrue a lot of terror sailing into the peacock wind. You'll also get quite a lot of supply that way. We're not doing that right now. I'm just going to set in right here again for a port report, and we'll be on our way. Yeah. We haven't been away long enough to gather ourselves more crew or terror reduction or any other nice free exchanges. I'm going to go through the fallows into Limpkins Field and then north to Port Prosper. It's the route that doesn't take me past a horror. There's a little bit of business to see to in Port Prosper, and then I'll be off to Albion. Let's see. What is it I'm doing there? I will be acquiring costumes for the clown's geese. It'll be a very, very long time before we actually get that down to Palmyre's. But it's fine. Geese costumes don't expire. That's quite the unique phrase. Sometimes you say those things and wonder whether that combination of words has been spoken anytime recently. I do find my work is in technical support, and I've taken to the battery staple horse method for determining secure passwords for people when they call in. Let's see. Let's grab something. Scavenging the magazine didn't go very well last time. Let's check the captain's quarters. An otherworldly artifact. All right. I'll probably need to get more fuel and supplies in Port Prosper before we go into Albion, because we might be milling about Albion for a decent amount of time before we actually make it to London. We'll see how that goes. London will provide us with another new place to trade in our port reports, new groups to curry favor with, a lot of new vignettes among the sky. It's interesting that the game is broken up in this way for Sunless Skies. In Sunless Sea, the entire game is taking place on one large gridded map, and there are notably fewer obstacles to your exploration. Mostly a lot of empty sea and terror management. Some parts of the sea are just scary. Right. An exploration merits a port report. While we're here, we'll join in... costume for geese. Need to get that done. The tailor, needle in his mouth like a cigarette, holds up a hand while he searches for the garment under his desk. He piles up a few shoeboxes and grins. I think I really captured the spirit of the Reach with this one. I'm sure the geese will love them, especially the boots. I have my doubts. Let's see. All the sights and sounds of a day at fair in London. Genuine rubbery lumps. I'm going to stick to the main stalls. Welcomed by the prosperous West Enders. The air is humid and moist. The Agbanon spring is being drained in preparation for the season. Good. Nothing absurd happening. Let's see. They have a bargain on panes of on stained glass. These can be very valuable. But I think that's not my concern at the moment. Yeah, I want to make sure I have a lot of hold space available for whatever I might run into in Albion, as well as a lot of fuel and supply. Right. We don't have a lot of sovereigns, though. Let's hope that doesn't become too much of a problem. When we make it to London, we can get a lot of sovereigns, and I suppose the fact that we don't have many sovereigns is exactly why we can't get very much out of that bargain on stained glass. Stopping in at the transit relay. I'll present myself to customs. I have nothing to declare. The pinch-faced inspector almost looks disappointed at having to give you a clean bill of passage. Such a waste of time, they mutter, stamping the customs form. Go on, no reason to take up space here. Travel to Albion, first class. We'll lose our ministry-stamped permit, but traveling first class actually reduces our terror. Traveling second class increases it. At the sight of your papers, the superintendent jumps to activate the relay. Its hours looms rumble, spinning the pocket of new time in which your locomotive will make its journey. Wrapped in your engine's new code of hours, it will be hard to say how long the journey takes, but the hours used by Imperial officials are languid and seasoned. The passage should be at least tolerable. The machinery grinds and stirs, the steam vents, the sigils of the edifice burn with sullen fire. A force like a great hand seizes your engine. The transit relays are the correspondence, the language of the heavens, wielded by man. All right. Here in Albion, about everything we find is going to be granting us new experience. Oh yes, I've just been hurled across the sky to a new area. A mysterious outbreak of nostalgia is spreading through your crew. Break out the brandy, string the fiddles. No good. They join in a few half-hearted verses of ta-ra-ra-boom-de-ay, but soon the mood turns melancholy again. Before you can stop it, the crew are sharing stories of the loved ones they left behind and the lives they led in those long-gone days before London climbed into the sky. A bit of terror and a tale of terror. So, we're on a whole new map now. London is always going to be in the approximate center of this map, but we've got a good bit of scouting to get done. Let me see. Oh, something to the south of us? Perhaps it's the work worlds of Brabazon. We seem to be in the industrial district. Now, I think Albion's had a bit of a redesign since I last played. It used to be more open, and I think they've cluttered it up a bit. The roar of a work-world's factories, a leviathan of industry. Okay, I'll have to sail around to the other side of this. Yes, we are mostly satisfied with our progress in the first quarter of the game, that being the Reach. It's roughly a quarter of the game, but there are reasons to go back, of course. A clay conductor. I don't think I have what I need to recruit him. Not if he wants money. But what do you want? Not money. A hulking clayman in a heavy coat stands on the platform. The claymen were an underclass in old London. Very few of them came to the skies. This one holds an urn to his chest. You're a captain. You can perform funeral rites, he says, nodding to the urn in his arms. Then I want to travel. He pauses for a long moment, and then, as if feeling something more might be expected, I could help out on your engine. A clay conductor. Say a few words about death in the sky. Skyfarers are accustomed to impromptu funerals. Parts by 6, irons by 2. You ask the conductor where he would like to hold the ceremony. He looks about, confused, as though he hadn't expected the question. At last he comes to a conclusion. Here will do, he says, indicating the crowded thoroughfare. You and a few of the more respectable of your crew gather for a brief funeral. Everyone has at least something in black. You offer the expected phrasings before pausing for the eulogy. The clay conductor shakes his head. You do it, he grunts. I'll say a few words. You're sure you can extemporize something? You render up a bounty of platitudes, benign wishes to the beyond, and maudlin remembrances of departed friends. The conductor frowns stonily, realizing he needs to give you at least something to work with. You could sing, he manages. You work a line about a man of clay with the voice of an angel into the eulogy. The conductor seems satisfied. Where's your engine? I'm ready to assume my duties. The conductor picks up the urn and heads off in the direction you point. Some officers are quite easy to recruit. Let's see. I can join a tour using a ministry-stamped permit, or I can join a tour. Will you donate what you know to turn the wheels of industry? I can try to attempt conversation. I can help the incautious driver search for the verdant fragment. The more places you search, the easier your search will get. Failing here does not harm you, which is fine because we're guaranteed failure on the first search. Oh yes, Brabazon is a singularly awful place. There are other ways of joining the tour. Oh. For Starshine, requirements might be waived. Starshine is the sunlight of sunless skies. I see. Let me attempt conversation with an overseer. An overseer checks his watch before pausing beside you. I'm very sorry, but I can't stop unless you're from... No, you aren't in uniform. Sorry, I can't dawdle. I'm only 20, and look at me. He does not look 20. I can't afford to risk demotion. Let's pop over to Little Nice. Little Nice is the good part of Brabazon, rather the orderly part. Little Nice is entirely charming. It is populated with carefully unique houses, painted in a curated array of colors. Overseers in striped blazers tend the topiary and maintain the paintwork. Behind a water feature bustling with cherubs is a cottage with an out-of-place little tower. This is the home of the governor of Brabazon. Okay, I can bring Gossip to take tea. He'll let me keep some tea. Let's get a port report up. Yeah, can't get it from Little Nice. The overseers themselves are no use. They must have been briefed. Each one gives you clearly sanitized information. You only have to speak to 4 before you hear repetition. You'll have to go down to the work world itself to learn anything true about Brabazon. Get my terror lowered. You are briefly without terror. Relax here again in 15 days. Well, back to the bit between and the locomotive. Let's see, at the bazaar, options for hours. We can get crockery here and fuel, but not supply. Noted. Let's join a tour with the right forms. The overseer checks over your permit and sets aside some Brabazon hours to be woven for you. She hands the group over to the tour leader, who shepherds you into a small side room. The tour leader hands out thick cloaks to keep off the smut. The group covers itself. The hood lends one woman, with her hair coiled up high on her head, an awkward shape and unexpected height. Satisfied, the tour leader begins a briefing. You'll receive a carriage clock. As you know, time on the work worlds moves more velocitously than it does outside. In order to exempt you from the effects, we've had the looms spin a fold of external hours to cover the tour. Please carry these carriage clocks. They will show you how much time your protection will last for. Please don't stray. He pauses for emphasis. It is crucial that you stay with the tour. If your time runs out, every minute it takes for us to realize could be hours for you. There is a flurry of anxious whispers. Once it has subsided, the group is led onto the work world. Our first stop, the tour, is the Brabazon Rug Weaving Workshop. The overseer beams and gestures for you to enter a building larger than any other on the street. An attractive young worker leaps up to greet you. This workshop was built thanks to the generosity of Lady something. Please admire our beautiful handcrafted rugs and weavings, exported for sale in London. Workers here gain skills that can support them for the rest of their days. A group of workers nods and smiles at you. One stands to better display their work. Another thanks you for your visit. The youth is the last to see you out. Perhaps I'll see you elsewhere in Albion. You've seen rugs like this in countless homes. They are cheap, within the means of all but the poorest families. I'll smile at the workers. They smile back, and their smiles are stiff and rehearsed as the line the youth delivered. The tour moves on. The fascinating aspect of Brabazon is the mutually beneficial relationship between the place and its workers. The overseer makes a sweeping gesture. Make note of this smog. I'll explain more inside. The smog prevents much of the sun's heat from reaching Brabazon. Without factories such as this, Brabazon would freeze. The workers keep the factories alive, the factories heat the work world, and it becomes a pleasant place to live. Here, work enriches life. Several of the group coo in admiration. One man boasts about his Brabazon glass collection. A young lady in gaudy finery turns to you. My parents paid for the main furnace to ensure that the poor would never go without. What did you fund? Let's see. Why not? I'll claim that I paid for the roof over our very heads. Why not? The lead overseer frowns, but does not bother to correct you. The young lady seems crestfallen. I suppose that is quite useful. Her bright smile is abrupt. That means you're very wealthy. Are you married? My brother is highly eligible. He's met her renewed majesty, you know. Gained 2 gossip. Pleasant indeed. Peer through the window at the hour refiners. These line up here, that's it, the overseer indicates alongside a long, low window. It has been recently cleaned to a shine. Inside, hard-working souls refine raw hours imported from the Reach. After this process, they may be spun in hour looms and put to use. He taps his carriage clock as an example. The refinery is a clamoring, roaring space of long benches, sweating workers, and rolling smoke. The overseer explains. Geodes containing the hours are cracked open, and the fibrous strands of salt-like time are separated with small chisels and saws. Men and women do the former work, children the latter. The filaments are then passed through a series of furnaces to remove impurities, which are then in turn brushed away in an indigo slush. The slush is raked to ensure not even a stray minute is lost. Once the seconds and minutes and hours are extracted, they are seasoned, taken from a very high temperature to a very low one, and back. After this, the tangled clumps, the color of the sky just before dawn or after dusk, are carded and wound onto spools and long filaments. The overseer raps sharply on the window, as the nearby workers look up, smile, and wave. What do they do when they haven't got an audience? Seconds after your group has moved on, a worker in the middle of the front row leaps from her seat. She pulls on the striped blazer that had been hidden on her lap and dashes from the room. She's replaced by another, gray and exhausted. No one looks up. A short walk, then you enter a dusty yard. The tour leader adopts a noble frown. Unfortunately, not all work on Brabazon can be creatively fulfilling. We also produce raw components, like gravel and aggregates. You have looped back to a yard near the bit between. The second overseer is already there. Men and women, hard with muscle, bright with sweat, are breaking rocks with sledgehammers. They wear vests and breeches with cloth masks to keep out the worst of the dust. We equip our workers with safety gear, just in case prolonged exertions air might prove unpleasant. As you can see, the regular exercise ensures they are strong and healthy. Many leave Brabazon with athletic inclinations and pursue fitness as a profession. A stout gentleman with a monocle sidles up to you. This whole place is just marvelous, eh? Kept busy while paying off debts, given new skills and education. Simply marvelous. I'm going to equivocate here. Well, on one hand, yes, and on the other hand, no. And on the third hand... His eyebrow rises so far that his monocle falls. There's always something better, that's easy to say. Do you have any suggestions for exactly what? He swells with hurt pride. I donate what I can, and I come to this ghastly place to ensure it's well spent. What more do you want? Come on, come on. The overseer is gesturing at you angrily. We can't waste another moment. We have to leave, now. Completing the tour. Carriage clock is silent. The second overseer takes a head count, a poor one, for she double counts twice before giving up. Nevertheless, she signals her partner to go ahead. I hope you appreciated our little tour, and we shall pass your thanks on to the workers of Brabazon. Perhaps when they've paid off their debts, you'll see them again. The overseer shakes the hands of the most prominent donors. Of course, this entire endeavor is thanks to your generosity, he murmurs to them. While the group preens, he collects the carriage clocks. The overseer takes your spent carriage clock, draws you aside. You're a Skyfarer, aren't you? We've need for someone without official connections to the governor to help us with a delicate matter. There are unsavory individuals on Brabazon Workworld. They inveigle others to do their work so that they might have the time to plot. They're fomenting unrest. He shakes his head. It won't do. It just makes the other workers unhappy. Next time, see if you can sneak away from the tour. I hear their leader is looking for outside assistance. He winces. For once, time is on their side. They have so long to plan relative to us. If you hear anything, pass it to me. I'll be around here. I can suggest he does it himself. I can tell him to go to the blazes. I can accept with apparent delight. I'm going to make no promises here. I would intend to betray this person. Thank you. I wasn't hoping for anything more definite. He smiles, but it's not a happy one. I'll be putting a case to the governor. I'll make sure you're paid for any information that helps us quell unrest. Helps us keep the workers happy. He shakes your hand. Thank you. Come back to me if you hear anything. I'll be around. Yes. I could go on another tour now and probably make it out of the way. Let's see. Let's go on a second tour. I think the safety equipment sticks around, but the only thing they're referring to as safety equipment is some simple face masks. Right then. Carriage clock. Rug weaving. Are the rugs. Sneak away from the group. No one notices you slipping away down an alley. Finally, we can write a port report. Industry is booming here as always. Labor is cheap, demand is high. Discontent simmers among the workers, but the ones who prove valuable are promoted to oversight positions. The wheels turn. Brabazon persists. Now then, the true Brabazon. Dismal, smog-choked alleyways, sooty tenements with tiny windows. Occasionally there is laughter from within them. There's almost always laughter, even in the grimmest of places, but it is very infrequent here. Dies quickly. I see. That is a big gain, securing a worker medical attention. The doctor's call book, safely secured in his office at the bit-between, claims he visits Brabazon twice a week, or once over the Christmas and Easter periods. But from the perspective of the work-worlders, isolated in their envelope of frantic, scurrying hours, the gap between his visits is rather longer. The debtors complain bitterly about the arrangement. You arrange a precious visit to the doctor's surgery for the injured worker. Colleagues and family, desperate to show their gratitude, give you whatever they can spare. That turns out to be Bibles of the Ministry of Public Decency's newest and most improved edition. You've been kind to the workers of Brabazon. You've used up more than half your time. Sovereigns for a tale of terror. I'll make the same exchange again. It's a good exchange. You are running out of time. I think it's time to rejoin the tour. You are rapidly running out of time. Finish the tour. Carriage clock is silent. What is the governor's request? Brabazon must be self-sufficient. Without industry to justify their lighting, our fires will go out. We must have work. His brow furrows. The workers refuse to understand that they live so long as they work. That is not a threat, it is a fact of living here. They require hope. Give it to them. Not enough to stir them into revolt, but enough that the fires remain lit. Tricky. Well, I think that is all we're going to do here for now. Let's move on. Back to the sky. Let's see. We want to be making our way east whenever possible. I'm not certain where our actual exit from Brabazon will be. We can pass under this. Gathering up prospects in London will give us a few ideas about the relative location of things. That'll be essential. Oh, that's bad to my south. That kind of swirl there. That's a thing, if I remember correctly. Here, the Cray of London gives way to its industrial hinterland. Yes, I believe that swirling darkness that was just off to my south, I believe that's actually a creature. I think that might actually be the physical form of the sky that speaks, but I'm not certain about that. And I'm not about to test it. I've got a lot to live for right now. I've just made it to London. Perhaps a future captain with more irons will be the sort to fly directly into those sorts of things. To ascend the mother of mountains. To achieve all that he can. Yes, here we have kind of these golden glowing dreadnoughts. London's finest. Crown and Misery Yards. This is London proper. Just need to find where the dock is. You can see other ships in the background. Here we go. Patient Princess. The Vagabond inhales a hearty dose of smog. Good for the lungs, Captain. Somehow I feel that is not the case. Whoop. They don't always care about you. Let's see. Here we go. St. Dominic Station. The Ministry's monitors. St. Dominic Station is thick with crowds. A brass band plays. The cause of the excitement is an unfamiliar locomotive in imperial blue. A delicate, gleaming craft whose elongated nose houses an array of lenses. A top-hatted official from the Ministry of Public Decency is delivering a speech. The first of a fleet of new Monitor-class locomotives. They will be Her Majesty's watchdogs, scouring the skies for the enemies of Albion. The crowd cheers. Well, most of them. Well, might as well take a tour. The Monitor's hull is curved to deflect incoming rounds, but its plating is much lighter than that of a London dreadnought. The bridge is crammed with state-of-the-art sensory equipment. You put your eye to the main scope, and it flings your sight through the Monitor's precisely aligned lenses and await, to a distant stretch of the sky. The stars are bright and close. You step back, bumping into a control panel. Careful, warns a watchful crewman. That's the gun. Just one, you ask? He grins. Oh, she only needs the one. You will now encounter Ministry monitors while exploring. Interesting. There is a lot to be done here. The ambition of wealth? Okay, so back in the Reach, we could purchase a different residence. Here, we can spend 5,000 residents for Harticraft Hall. Interesting. Well, we'll have to save up. Find the address given in Captain Whitlock's will. You make your way through little-used streets in one of London's lower, smoggier levels. We will deliver the black box and fulfill Captain Whitlock's last request. The butler is pleased. Ah, a resident has arrived. Please, bring him in. Everything has been prepared according to Captain Whitlock's instructions. As you maneuver the black box inside, you ask what those instructions were. She has arranged for Master Jacob's convalescence with us. I understand the young gentleman has suffered from a prolonged illness, which has left him unable to speak and afflicted him with a delicate disposition. Its expression is entirely impassive. The affairs of the house have been organized in such a way as to never inconvenience him. He will require no visitors. An extensive library has been provided for his edification. Privacy is paramount. With the box in place, the butler produces a key from his pocket, but waits for you to leave before using it. Thank you for your assistance, Captain. If Amelia were still with us, she would thank you. Good day. You leave the house without windows behind, the matter of Captain Whitlock's legacy finally discharged. You gain 2,000 experience. You no longer possess a large black box. Let's see. We do have access to the bank here, which is good. We might need to sell a couple things to get us back to a stable point. A surfeit of sunlight, bombazine for the mausoleum. They require bombazine cloth. Bombazine cloth drinks light. You will require 3 rolls of it for starters. Literature for the Clockwork Sun. 5 consignments of ministry-approved literature. In the bank, we've got enough, actually. We could do that. Let's keep that in mind. Actually, let's not keep that in mind. Let's pick that up. Bibliophiles congregate at St. Dominic's. They're preparing to travel to the Most Serene Mausoleum to attend an immense auction of books. We're getting notices about opportunities of where to buy this stuff. That's pretty good. There should be, at St. Dominic's Augmentations, there are a few things here we can buy that were not available before. A speciometer assaying device, fitted cupboards, which are good for +7 hold but requires 45 irons. Grimalkin is still here. The Cavernous Yard's Black Jape is a newly available weapon, requiring 45 irons once again. There are ratty baggage handlers, which are good for +11 hold, but take a utility slot that we don't quite have. Portsmouth House Jubilee. I don't believe we have a heavy weaponry slot. No, there's 2 standard weaponry slots. We've got access to the Sneeze Lurker, and there's a new engine called the Goneril. With sufficient crew. Yes, this actually gives you a full steam speed, which is new. Well, back to London proper, we've got a lot more to explore. The Steam and Sapphire Yards? The fatalistic signalman needs to look up his old friend. Oh yes, there's been a... well, it might be alive. It's probably dead. The thing that was in the box, the person that was in the box, was retrieved from the Blue Kingdom, the Kingdom of Death. The box appeared to be engineered with the purpose of blocking out all light, hiding something from the stars. And we delivered it to a house with no windows that a person would never need to leave. I believe that what is encased in that box was a dead man who wanted to be returned to London and wanted very much not to die. Death is a rule that is enforced by the stars. Hiding from the stars is hiding from death. Right. The only address the signalman has for his friend is Shed 4 at the yards. He will only reveal her first name, Charlotte. Unfortunately, Shed 4 is off limits, ringed with a wire fence and under the guard of a pinched watchman and his barely tamed hounds. If I had 3 of the new street lines gratitude, I could get in a favor to get through, but I have otherworldly artifacts that I can trade. The watchman coos at your gift and adds it to the incomprehensible jumble of objects crowding his shelves. It goes between a roll of crackling parchment, which he claims originated in the library of scribe spinsters, and a rubbery skull. He waves you through, and the grumbling dogs watch petulantly as you sidle past. A rubbery skull is not a skull that is itself made of rubber. A rubbery is a term for a squid or a squid person. So it's the skull of a squid man. Shed 4 is a huge storehouse. Beams of solemn starlight slant from grubby windows in the roof. The hulks of old locomotives rust here, from battered tugs to fat old liners once packed with emigrating Londoners. The signalman heads off between the wrecks. The signalman stops before a stately old wreck with flaking navy blue paint. This is her. None worked harder on the Isambard line than she did. You look at the nameplate. The Charlotte Guest. Look how they left her, he says gloomily. That's not right. You tidy up, put things in order. You turn the lights off, close it before you go. She deserved better than this. choices. I can either give her to the New Street Line if I'm in favor with them and I spend 2,000 sovereigns, or I can have her put on a display in a mausoleum, which I think is actually pretty cool. Do I have 3 bronze wood in the bank? I do. 3 bronze wood and a favor. That was through the Steam and Sapphire Yards. Shed 4. I'm gonna have her put on display. Her wood is riddled with worms. Even if you can restore her, you'll need someone with influence who can recommend a more lauded resting place. So, my cryptic benefactor from being put in line for the hunting club in Port Avon will get me through this. You have to source replacement wood and call in a favor, but you won't you won't get back anytime soon, but you secure the promise you need. The Charlotte guest will be restored and displayed in a modest exhibition hall in the Museum of Inauguration, where London commemorates its arrival in the skies. The plaque she receives will not mention the Isambard line. London does not celebrate failures, but it will testify to her hard work in a hostile sky. The signalman is mollified. It's all any of us can hope for in the end, isn't it? Be remembered. Let's trade some savage secrets over a slice of Battenberg cake. The signalman has sunk back into his reticence. This time you'll need even bleaker tales to coax him out, something properly grisly. He laps up your stories like a cat would cream. In return, he shares a story of his own. Came to the skies as a lad in the first days. Her Majesty needed a whole country built, granted us 30 years to do it. I took the offer, helped lay the foundations of London, built some of the dome over the throne of ours. Then I joined up with the squire to lay the Isambard line and headed to the Reach. Last time I saw Albion, it was just construction. I'd like to take a look around and see what our graft bought. The signalman wants you to show him Albion. Accumulate 5 Albion port reports and speak to him again. We got 1 port report so far. Right. That is progress for him. Rumors of an underground railway. I have a few savage secrets. 2 of them offer clues to the Yard Gang's identity. With a little sniffing around, 2 pieces of information become relevant. The name of a stalwart bookkeeper and the number of the engine shed where he keeps his office. The man is, you are certain, an agent of the group you seek. You decide to pay him a visit. Okay. Stalwart bookkeeper at the New Street Line is one of our options for Albion port reports. You can trade gratitude for savage secrets, unlicensed charts, or to win the bookkeeper's trust in exchange for further work. That takes 4 or more. There will be another person that we can engage with, though. Okay. At Macquarie's tobacco shop. Let's inspect the wares. Macquarie and Son, fine tobacco. But since then, someone has crossed out the word fine in a fit of honesty. Then, on a separate, more ominous occasion, they have crossed out and Son. The selection is unimpressive, as is the quality. Neither Albion nor the Reach has found a genuinely good replacement for tobacco, though increasingly frantic smokers have tried lighting up virtually every example of Skyflora that has been discovered. A few Skyfarers mill about, examining the lower-grade flavors and speculating on exactly what Macquarie is cutting them with today. The more expensive brands are untouched in their glass cases. You'd wonder how this place managed to stay open if it weren't for the fact that it's so obviously on the brink of closure, and probably collapse. Doesn't seem there's much more to learn there for now. Back to St. Dominic Station. Generous princess manages many affairs of court. The generous princess as opposed to the captivating princess. She attracts rumors like a lantern attracts moths. It's said that she fears the light of the suns and that her gifts inevitably destroy their recipients. She can sometimes be found in her salon, where she welcomes visiting captains. So, we can exchange a lot of salon-stewed gossip, however much we want to, gaining sovereigns and experience each time we do. We do have a lot of gossip, so I'll exchange some of it. This is the same as having an outlet for Sky Stories in Titania. she will also take donations of ministry-stamped permits, cryptic benefactors, and even possibly royal dispensations, which are, you know, hugely valuable. Let's see. Well, let's see about plotting this escape. We can use a cryptic benefactor to quash the trial of the of Ratbite, the individual for the vagabond. Let's see. Or we can pull off a complex, ambitious height using unseasoned hours, a caged catch, and a sky story. I believe we don't have caged catches, I think. We have unseasoned hours. It does sound pretty good and silly. If possible, we'll try and come back with a with a cryptic benefactor. In terms of exploring London, we can hunt for the shop that the Auroral Sommelier mentioned. There are several secondments here. Let's hunt for the Verdant Fragment first. Getting out 30% success. Okay, we'll have to keep looking. That's fine. No sign of the fragment in London. You find the establishment between the roofs of two collapsed houses. Under their steepled walls, it bulges like a tumor. You enter. The floorboards sigh in warning under your feet. Oh, we can learn about the Chiropterus Order. Ding. The sound is sharp and silver in the murk. For a time, there is nothing. No indication of life in the store until... What are you? Why have you come? If you are a customer, I have nothing right now. Nothing I want to sell. Comes a voice from the clutter. A body soon follows the voice, peeling from the gloom. It elongates, stretching upwards, spreading into a flare of burgundy fabric. Under its hood, an unmistakably chiropteran visage, its eyes dark and curious. It is one of the masters of the bazaar. Though pronounced adversaries of the Empire, one of them still stands here before you, imperious, impossible, and maybe slightly afraid. The Masters of the Bazaar are huge, inescapable characters within Fallen London. But they are servants of the Bazaar, which is itself a creature that is the thief of London. A creature that London has since shaken off in its pursuit of the skies. The tiling ripples underfoot like the back of an animal. Inside there are aisles as thin as capillaries and shelves cauled in thick black fabric. The red-clad master glares at you from behind its counter. You repeat your Auroral Sommelier's comments with gusto, asking about the Hesperidian cider. Gone. What he wants is gone. No, not gone, but almost gone. Little more than a sweet swallow that isn't enough to do anything. Movement in the chthonic murk, filled with carnivore purpose. You smell animal musk and hoarfrost on rose petals, and fruit both astringent and sweet. Gone. But I could make more. I was Mr. Apples once, as I was once other things, other names, other people. You smell of oil and metal and the stars. You could take me where I need to go. You can almost touch it. Do this for me, and I will trade you something rare, very fine indeed. A pause. My company. We will recruit the Chiropterus Order. For one reason or another, you do not say no. We've gained a quartermaster at last, worth 6 veils and 2 mirrors. You were wiser than most of your kind. I'm so glad that you did not say no. It would have made me unhappy, and that would have made you worse. It feeds oil to one of the dying lamps pendulating overhead, so close its breath breaks over your skin. Revealed, the Chiropterus Order is massive, stooped, bat-like where its bones do not strain to imitate humanity. But you did not, so we are now... It searches for the word. Friends. And not hungry things circling in the dark, watching to see who will lay down their guard first. We have... This story was unlocked because we have veils of 40 or more. No sooner have you been pulled no sooner have you pulled into sidings than a long-faced man in a battered coat approaches your locomotive and asks for a moment of your time. Hear what he has to say. His voice is nasal, his eyes gray. I will not wish you a good day. You are a person of intelligence, and the day is manifestly miserable. I myself am newly afflicted by the gout, which has made my mornings a parade of wretchedness. No doubt you have your own misfortunes, into which I will not pry. Instead, let us move to the happier subject of business. You have come to my attention for the very reasons you avoid others, your subtlety and your cunning. My employer may have work for you, profitable work, but perilous and profoundly illegal. Should you be interested, seek me at the Admiral Benbow Inn here in London. With that, he takes his leave, tutting at the thickness of the fog before he dons his crooked hat and vanishes into the crowd. I very much appreciate when the opening line of description of a given scene dictates the voice of the character. It really helps me keep track of things. Now then, exploration of London. Let's go with the navigator. The navigator waits for you. I've been away some time. Your vouching for me would make a good impression. I want to make her proud. The house is small, but is in an inexpensive location. It is well kept. The windows are clean, the steps freshly swept. Asphodel is flourishing in an urn by the steps. It still feels like home. The navigator gazes at the front door. It feels strange to know I'm just visiting. The navigator stands beside you. He fidgets with a loose thread on his sleeve. Boom, boom. The grieving matriarch herself opens the door. She sees the navigator and yelps. She laughs. It disintegrates into tears. The navigator enfolds the woman in a hug. The matriarch glares up at the navigator fondly. I've been so worried. The moment I knew you'd signed up, it's so dangerous out there. What if something had happened to you too? She hustles the pair of you into the drawing room. My husband's at work. He'll be disappointed to have missed you. The grieving matriarch is determined you'll join her for tea. She even refuses to let the servants assist. She's rushing towards the kitchen when the navigator intervenes. We can't stay long. I mustn't impose on the captain. I promise I'll come back soon. He draws the matriarch close and lowers his voice. I came to ask, may I borrow the key? I haven't been able to pay my respects. The grieving matriarch looks mortified. I'll give them some privacy. I could peruse the photos in the hallway. The walls are covered in family photos. Frames jostle for space. In the oldest picture, the navigator appears as a young freckled girl. Skirted and scowling. In the later ones, he is a tall, short-haired youth, his arm casually flung around his friend's shoulders. Okay, it took me a moment to work through that, sorry. The matriarch bustles past. A couple of minutes later, she returns carrying a large book. This time, she attempts a smile. Finally, the navigator comes out into the hall. I have what I need. He has the book under one arm and is holding up a large iron key. What does it open? The family tomb in Eagle's Empyrean. They took Alton back there. Alton's family tomb in Eagle's Empyrean. A gain of 1,000 experience. We're certainly becoming a more experienced person. I could put one of these fellows up for secondment. I need to have 5 port reports to make good on anything through for the fatalistic signalman. The princess needs to go to Perdurance, so I want to keep her on the train for now. But I'll allow the signalman to work on this for a bit. I'm going to set up shop in London and offer my services to this generation of builders and industrialists. He sighs. I suppose they're a dreadful bunch, but someone has to stop them making the mistakes we did. He heads off into the smog and does not look back. Let's see, we can try to go for Ministry Gratitude or a Cryptic Benefactor. We're going to go for a Cryptic Benefactor. I'll do what I can, if the pig-headed idiots will listen. The signalman's expression is dour as ever. He never paid attention to me when I was just a worker. He adjusts his bowler and tugs his collar straight. The Now I'm a consultant. He heads off from the station, whistling tunelessly. 30 days to receive the fruits of the signalman's labors. All right. Back to St. Dominic's, exploring London. A meeting with a gloomy middleman. The middleman is nursing the same glass of beer he began the evening with. Ah, Captain, to claim it is a good evening would be duplicitous, but it is at least an evening, and here you are in it. He waits until you sit. My employer can open a profitable door for you. There are goods that Her Majesty's government do not want to see bought or sold. Prohibition begets scarcity. Scarcity begets profit. One example of this contraband is red honey, gathered by the midnight rose at Titania. Unfortunately, supplies have dried up. Prove your value, find out why, and fix the problem. Maybe because Titania was destroyed by an attack of chorister bees. That might be related. Let's see. Oh, it'll take a selection of immaculate souls to find the Baroness of Hell? That's pricey. Wandering the streets. There is a palpable tension in the air today. Ministry officials walk the streets, their expressions stormy. A newspaper at the station proclaims the date, the anniversary of the blockade of New Winchester. Alright. I don't think there's much more to do here in terms of various businesses. Next. We can take a look at the next ships on offer. Apart from the ones that are currently available, there is here the Agravain-class Juggernaut, a thundering puissance, the terror of the skies, the harbinger of conflict. It is almost strictly superior to our current vessel. It loses a basic weapon slot in favor of a heavy weapon slot. It can stock more plating and has more baseline health and more crew quarters. It's a little bit less fuel efficient. That's very typical for heavier vessels. Yeah, the Agravain is almost certainly our next preferred ship. I think I may want to sell a few things out of the bank. Perhaps just a bit of dried tea or some chorister nectar. Just to have a bit of kind of walking around the capital. Being at less than 200 sovereigns is a bit pinched. I want to speak with the Chiropterous Hoarder. Let's ask about the Hoarder's luggage. It is your right as the captain to have at least some knowledge of what you're transporting. The Chiropterous Hoarder glowers, its expression glacial. When it becomes clear that it cannot intimidate you into leaving, your quartermaster sighs and relents. A jellyfish still alive, it whispers, voice sawed down to a growl. As it speaks, the Hoarder trails a claw along each item. A dream of freedom piped into glass. Verdant spores that will never die. Everything immortal, or that aspires to be immortal. I am making an inventory of them. Most interesting. We can complement it at the expense of a savage secret. What does failure get us? It shrinks into a corner of the cabin. There it almost seems to spread, frames splaying, flattening into the wall. Chiropterous Hoarder's shoulders writhe beneath its cape, and uncomfortable angles puppet the fabric into a suggestion of nightmares. It's mine. We have a bit of chorister nectar. Let's give him a gift. How do you build rapport with someone who wants everything? You give them more. Your present is received with poor grace and rich suspicion. Joy is lost when something is given away, it admonishes. Your species is ridiculous. Despite its truculence, there is a tenderness in the way the Chiropterous Hoarder cradles your gift. What does it care about? Perhaps you will find common ground. I have a dream, it confides, picking at the hem of its claret cloak. An ear, long and velveteen, droops from its cowl. An old dream, an excellent dream, I would make my collection perfect. To do this, there is a corpse that I must visit. Your kind named it Faith's Fall. Appropriate, I think. If I could travel there, if I had help and bronzewood, I could build the thing that I need. For a moment, its eyes are the universe, garbed and glorious with stars. You couldn't spare the crew or the timber or the time. Not for me. No, not for me. 6 pieces of bronzewood and 5 spare crew to Faith's Fall in the Reach. I know where Faith's Fall is. Does it know Mr. Menagerie? Silence. The kind not unlike a man trying to recall a favorite meal overtakes the chiropterous order for an interval. At last, it brightens. It sells delicious things. What about the other masters of Old London? Complications happen, to say the least. Her Majesty came to regret her arrangement with us. She reneged and fled the 5th city for the sky. Oh, London is the 5th city. I thought London was the 4th city. Most of my colleagues remained behind, fat and sleek and content at the heart of the new 6th city. But a few of us had languished long enough in the dark. We saw the chance to return home to the heavens. So in secret, a few of us followed you to the sky. Most of us did so quietly. One of us made too much noise, and Her Renewed Majesty overheard. It has a job now. The hoarder sniffs. Tragic. Delightful. Okay, I think... Is there any other story that needs to be done in London that I'm missing? The incautious driver, I think, needs to go to Perdurance to check on the fragment. There are a couple other places we can check for the Verdant fragment, all of which are in Albion. I know the incautious driver's storyline can be completed without going to Eleutheria. The Rat Brigade needs to go to Perdurance. The Repentant Devil needs to go to... The Well of the Wolf, I believe, is in Albion, but I don't really want to go there. Visiting the Baroness of Hell, it seems, is going to require Immaculate Souls. Perdurance for the Incognito Princess. The Navigator's Promise will need to go to Eagle's Empyrean. I need to speak to him aboard the engine. Very good. I think let's do that then. Yes, among the officers. Even off-duty, the Navigator is constantly checking the crew. He's avoiding being alone. Let him know that you've seen this before. He has to share his burden. The Navigator joins you in his cabin. Finally, the words tumble out. I thought I was all right. I just got on with my work and I was doing well. He reaches beneath his bunk to pull out the book the matriarch gave him. Alton read this all the time. He'd act it out, do the voices. It is the Epic of King Gissar. Alton knew the true me. He shared his clothes. Helped me bind my chest the first time. Got me into my first fist fight. The Navigator sits up proudly. He was my best friend. When we were children, I made a promise to him. The Navigator stares blindly at the book. What did he promise? Why does it prey on him? When we were grown up, we would go exploring together. We'd go on great quests, do mighty things. The Navigator takes several breaths before continuing. We'd be heroes. People would write stories about us. I'm exploring the skies, and the Navigator turns his face away. He didn't even get to leave home. He wipes his eyes on his sleeve and stands, resolute. I'm not going to break my promise. I will give him adventures worthy of King Gissar. Please, Captain, I want to go to Eagle's Empyrean. I'm breaking him out of his tomb, but I'll need your help. You'll need a visa to come with me. The London Embassy will give you one. He frowns. If you've not been to Eleutheria, the relay is near Hybris, in the Reach. Yeah, that'll be a while. Ricky. Alright, is there anything more? I checked in with this. I sold off some gossip. I don't really want to give up anything else. I think, then, that we have done what we want to do as far as this location. Prospect of Bombazine we can't really make good on. There was a prospect of literature for the Clockwork Sun. Let me get my literature out of the bank. The Clockwork Sun is... I think the Clockwork Sun is always in the north. Clockwork Sun was in the north the last time I looked at it. This doesn't tell me which direction the Clockwork Sun is in. No, east-northeast. Okay, very good, very good. So the Clockwork Sun will be our next rough heading. This is enough supply to go out exploring. Let's be on our way. There are a couple of other ports. I didn't actually take damage from that. That's nice. Oh, no, I did. I took 1 damage. There are a couple of other ports in the vicinity of London, and a number of other kind of points of interest to discover. I believe there's, I think the Throne of Hours may be a wonder, or something like that. The Ministry of Public Decency. Those people. Looking down, you see all the strata of London banded below you. Ministries. Yeah, there's a lot of things for us to just kind of casually tag. I think this over here with the ring might be... Nope, that's not it. Alright, well, there's a few things. Oh, you can dock at the ministries. The Ministry of Public Decency, the Ministry of Works, and the Horological Office. No, I wanted to check in at the Horological Office. I think you can get a job there. Oh, I thought those two might collide with each other. Well, checking in at the ministries. A number of instruments of government are located here. The Horological Office, which regulates time across the Empire. The Office of Works, which ensures the jobs no one else can be bothered with are done. And the Ministry of Public Decency, which curates the notion of Britishness with the same care as a lepidopterist uses to pin a butterfly to a board. I see. I can trade import reports with the Ministry of Public Decency. I can use that to reduce unwanted attention if I have unwanted attention. And most of the other things I can do are about the same. You can make a deal to reduce your notoriety if you've been smuggling. The Office of Works. Provide the foreman's requirements to earn payment. The Office of Works is a bustling bureaucratic enigma. Behind its red-bricked flanks toil numberless clerks and surveyors. What mysteries lurk within its memoranda, its chits, and its receipts? What exactly are its eponymous works? No one is sure. The Office of Works, God bless her, has very peculiar requirements. Very particular. Let's have a look. Let's see, that was 2 caddies of dried tea. And a vision of the heavens. I see, so it just asks you for random things. If only I could access the bank through here, which I cannot. Nope, nothing. The Royal Horological Office. Not just anyone can become a Royal Horologist. The chief horologist looks surprised at your inquiry. Horologists tend to be cut from a specific cloth, a rather grayer fabric than worn by a skyfarer. However, you have the right to take the examination if you wish. He blows the dust off a textbook and bids you sit down. No calculation devices or writing implements are permitted. The chief horologist peers over the book. Current time in Perdurance is exactly 7:15 of the clock, and the time in Albion is 18:34. What, pray tell, is the current time in Lustrum? Hurry up. Time in Lustrum is going to have to be 18:34. The time in Perdurance doesn't really matter. Time in Albion matters. That is your answer? Very well, we shall continue. And now a tricky one, perhaps. The chief horologist coughs. The train from the Brabazon work world arrives at 11:30 in London. The current time shown on the master Brabazon clock is, he winces, 14:30. If the train took exactly 1 hour to make the journey, it does not, of course, and the offer this is a hypothetical for the sake of testing, what was the accurate time of its original departure from the work world? The accurate time of its original departure would have to be 10:30. It took 1 hour to make the journey. It arrived at 11:30 at London. London is the authority, is the only real metric you need to know to get through this. Interesting, very interesting. You wait patiently for several minutes, but the third question doesn't seem to be coming. The chief horologist's eyes have drifted closed. A thin string of drool dribbles from his otherwise dry lips as he snores. Nudge. Oh, excuse me. Glances at your answers. Well, you seem to have the idea. No point going through the other 248 questions. Congratulations, you're now officially a Royal Horologist, Apprentice 3rd Class. He pauses. Speaking of which, I have an assignment for you. Temporal inconsistency. A suitable test of your practical skills. Take this pocket watch. It is both your badge of office and your compass, pointing to the correct time. Wear it proudly. Keep it well wound. Do not get it wet. The smaller gears are quick to rust. An assignment in Carillon? Give me a break. Current time is right now. Despite the vast distances involved and the complicating effects of local hour usage, all the clocks show the same time. Each of London's territories is expected to run on Albion Standard Time, but London is a long way from them. Despite being a commandment from the Empress's own lips, it is a law more often breached than observed. Alright. Well, we can earn things by doing various works for the Royal Horological Office. Not much more to do there. Turn away a bit gingerly to avoid getting knocked around. That's one of those embarrassing things. Sometimes you wind up making it back to port with as little as one hull left, and you can lose that by knocking into a random wall. So we will eventually be going north-northeast, but I still want to cruise around London to get a better sense of its overall shape. And there are a few more landmarks in London that will give us experience, in some cases a sizable amount. So we want to skirt a lot of these land masses to check which one of them are more meaningful as we slowly make our way out to the northeast. Her Majesty's throne is somewhere around here. I think it's normally on kind of the central northern end of London. Okay, yeah, we can sail over that just fine. I think overall there's just more London than there used to be. The Calo Galoy. I'm not familiar with that. Bit of scouting. Something spooky over that way. That looks like it might be a landmark over here. It's unusually green, that's for certain. I can't tell, though. It's a very well-to-do little household. Oh, well, isn't that just a block of land? I'm hearing a bit of a noise. Oh, got some broken things here. That is a Skymat Explorer. A Star-Seared Explorer. It's worse. What is that thing? A deranged dreadnought. And that is a nastier version of a Scribe Spinster. A well-aimed shot penetrates your plating. Okay, so we ran into about 3 or 4 nasty things all at once. Let's just not deal with that. Yes, Albion is substantially more dangerous. There are upgraded versions of a lot of basic enemies. I think that's a nastier version of the Scribe Spinster because it's a different color. Yeah, that was a very exciting little kerfuffle to jump into. How like me to run into something like that. Oh, there's a horror over there. Oh wait, actually... Is that horror maybe the... That's right, the Clockwork Sun is a horror, isn't it? The days have worn thin in this corner of the sky. Your driver watches warily for wefts of unraveling time. Yeah, I believe this is roughly the place I need to be. Okay, there was a bit of a weft of time there. I need to be careful. You don't want to drive into those directly if you can avoid it. This is... What is this? Skyhenge. You tether your engine to a circle of menhirs standing on a wide stone ledge. The tallest towers over you, the height of 3 men. You can brush the top of the smallest with your fingers. The rocks are rough, weathered. Far beneath the plain, other vast stone plates turn remorselessly. Here, the megalithic monument is still, but the place feels a kilter. You stumble, as if dizzy. You can bring an offering of hours to the circles. Doesn't seem too smart. Whisper a sky story to the tallest stone. It is said the stones are lonely. That would be a shame. You lean close to the cold rock and tell a story to a hollow in the stone. Nearby, your crew watch, clearly unsettled by the superstition. Your tale is finished. You pull yourself from the menhir. The air hangs still. Nothing. Perhaps the stones have heard that story before. Let's go. I see. So, this is certainly not the Clockwork Sun. An injury. Grim news. Your last battle resulted in a number of injuries among your crew. Your medical bay is crowded. Prognoses aren't good. I have a steady hand and some education. Perhaps it will be enough. Yes! It's touch and go, but all your patients will make satisfactory recoveries. 1,000 deaths wait in the sky. Today, you thwarted them all. Daniel's thwart. Just a little lighthouse. Every single lighthouse is a landmark. Okay, so I believe it was northeast for the prospect. No, it's the east-northeast. I see. So it's likely somewhat in this slice. Well, good that I haven't missed it. I'm uneasy about going too far around the outside. That could not go. That might not go well. That being said, I don't know if I can get more supplies out in the Clockwork Sun. I think the Clockwork Sun might have spare fuel. I don't remember. The sky is the color of roses. I can hear a bit of gunfire off to the east. I think with this amount of supply, we probably can't do any more scouting, which is a shame, since I need to find things. Maybe what I'm hearing is those pistons, if they make a noise. No, it sounds like gunfire. I don't know. It's gotten a bit dark over this way. Is that a ruin for a saying? Vacant buildings. Crippled with chimneys and empty as an executioner's heart. Open, cloudy skies ahead. Here we go. This is roughly the sort of thing we're looking for. Sound like a shower of diamonds. You've passed through a field of glass fragments. The Clockwork Sun has a peculiar and unfortunate effect. I believe it's over this way, given the way the light is going. Maybe that's not a hard rule. I'm trying to avoid the need to scout. There it is. Bright night benefice. light of the clockwork sun oozes into your cabin like rancid honey. The sun blazes gold in your windows. Yeah, the first time you arrive at the clockwork sun, you get a terror reduction because it's a port. How funny. The dock is rarely used and its maintenance has lapsed. There's evidence of rust and metal strain, but only of non-crucial components. It's safe to stop for now. Once inside the dock, the sun's scouring light is diminished. At the bazaar, turn in a lot of literature. You've gained 1 vision of the heavens, 150 experience, and you've gained 10 strength of the sun, new total of 84. Right. The dazzled sequencer thumbs through the books with little interest. I'm sure these will do, although some of them do seem frivolous. I prefer hymns myself. There's a bargain on munitions, getting up to 7. We'll do that. Boom. The decommissary offers fuel but no supplies. They can also export stained glass here. An outpost on the roaring edge of the sun, shielded from malevolent light by an eggshell of stained glass. As you emerge from your train, suit-swaddled engineers gather, plainly astonished by your arrival. They bombard you with complex questions about how you dealt with dense sunlight and skewed chronosolar fields. Once satisfied, they hand out protective suits to you and your crew. Yours is patched and torn, 1 boot missing. You successfully reached the clockwork sun. An engineer sprays you with a substance that smells like lemons gone wrong and searches your pockets. Cursory effort at best, they seem distracted. Sunlight seeps like syrup through cracks in the stained glass ceiling. The floor shudders in time with the churning machinery far beneath your feet. The air has a tang of chemicals, bonfires, and rain. Pistons pump, cogs turn, and suit-swaddled figures tend to the enginery, bellowing over the shrieking metal. I will write a port report. The clockwork sun is the preeminent symbol of the Empire's heavenly dominion. The newspapers in London call it enduring, everlasting, eternal. If only it were so. In response to your questions, the engineers shrug. The day dawns, the sun brightens. The night comes, the sun dims. What more is there to say? Some of them seem so exhausted they can barely stand. They insist it's proximity to the sun that affects their sleep. You now have 1 yearning burning, the desire for light. It's not good. Let's see. Toward the sundial-shaped building. Azimuth is an enormous sundial without shadow, its roof topped by a golden shark-fin gnomon. There are still racks of yellowed pamphlets on the walls. It once served as a kiosk, selling tickets to sunspotters, the pilgrims and tourists that were expected to flock here. These days, it's more like a temple. Frescoes on the curved walls depict the triumph of the new sun over the old. I see. The sequencer has a request. You will be compensated for your time. There are many poor souls out there in need of our help, beleaguered, ignorant masses. I've never met them, but I'm assured they exist. He pauses to wipe his eyes. When we lift them from their contemptible state, perhaps they will come to appreciate the greatness of the sequence. He sends an orderly to fetch a wooden crate. Once it's set down before him, he wraps the lid proudly. 600 manuals on how to correctly tie a bow tie. Deliver these to Brabazon Workworld. I'm sure they will be immensely benefited for their improved understanding of etiquette. A well-intentioned package. I see. About his role in the sun. I'm a priest of the new sequence, declares the sequencer. The brightest truth, the wildfire that has swept Albion. He points out the expanse of the sun. There burns a beacon, a savior, an aspect of God. We venerate the clockwork sun and its immortal architect, our empress. I'm here to greet pilgrims and safeguard the souls of our engineers. Azimuth is also the only access route to the sun-shattered dome, an exhibition hall that was built back when we received more visitors. The dome is terribly dangerous, and I advise you to avoid it, no matter how much you hear about the priceless artifacts inside. Priceless artifacts, you say? The sequencer obviously takes his role as gatekeeper seriously. He fusses around you, checking you and your crew's gear, tugging on straps, checking for rips, wiping your stained glass goggles with a silk handkerchief. All the while, he spouts an endless stream of warnings. Don't enter the Shalimar, never travel in a group of 3 or fewer, and resist the urge to sing, no matter how fiercely your throat burns. And for sequence's sake, watch the condition of your suit. With that, he pats you on the back, hands you a brochure, and sends you through the heavy iron door to the dome. The state of the suit is 4. Exhibition halls built to accommodate sunspotter tourists and sequence pilgrims, and abandoned after the dangers of the sun became impossible to hide. Priceless paintings hang in bleached rags. Magnificent relics have been left to accumulate glittering glass dust. Is anything still intact? The stained glass sky has collapsed, and unfiltered sunlight gnaws savagely at your hazard suit. It is currently undamaged, though a little shabby. You come upon what looks like a glittering gold carousel, but instead of horses, it features glass bottles as tall as you. They are each filled with a near impenetrable liquid, and within, dark shapes writhe sluggishly. Investigating the carousel. Brushing aside glitter dust, you discover a label on the carousel's base, Tempest Prognosticator. Each bottle is similarly labeled Philosopher. Something roils through the glass. You work out the carousel's controls and set it going. Your assembled crew watch in astonishment as the bottles glide and rotate. Black shapes emerge from the fluid and slither up glass tubes. When they reach the carousel's top, a bronze bell tolls. You pull another lever, and the carousel winds to a halt. The slimy shapes slide back into confinement. The bell falls silent. You direct your crew to take one of the Philosopher bottles from its moorings. The suit has been damaged. We're not so good at that. We'll search elsewhere. I believe this degrades our suit. Each moment precious. We have 2 state of the suit. I'm going to investigate the carousel one more time. This one's a failure. The suit has been damaged. There are splits in the seam. Sunlight seeps into your skin. You've gained 5 terror. I'm going to return to safety now. Don't want our state of the suit to go down completely. We will leave Azimuth. I'm going to visit the glass house. An isolated section of the abandoned exhibition halls has been repurposed to hold not treasures but prisoners. Each wears a gray smock rather than a protective suit, leaving them utterly undefended from the ravages of sunlight. They sit slumped in unlocked cells, making no effort to escape. Where would they go? I can speak with them. Let's see. A few are singing in praise of the sun, mouths bloody and throats tattered. You should perhaps be horrified, but the song wraps tender chords around your mind and numbs you. Glass crunches underfoot. When you lift your boot, you discover a cracked ear beneath. I'm going to approach the half glass empty. Only one cell is locked, and the man within is neither singing nor screaming. The left half of his body is shimmering, translucent. Only the flesh and muscle of his left half is vitrified, not the bones and blood within. The glass is suffused with 1,000 fine frozen capillaries, like delicate red cracks running through ice. He fixes you with an anguished stare. Get me out of here. Why is his cell locked and his alone? The others would not leave even if they could. Their minds are lost. The empty attempts a one-sided shrug. And, well, the Empire sent me here because I was smuggling sunlight from the Neath, back before the horizon closed. When I sold it, I told my customers that the light from the clockwork sun was toxic. True sunlight was the only cure. Ended up causing a minor panic in London. I think one of the engineers locked me in because he took offense at my criticism, though he gestures at his vitrified body. I stand by it. I will agree to help him escape. Thank you. His voice is hoarse, and he speaks in barely a whisper. You will need to find a permit for my release. Present to the steward. Forged, legitimate, I don't care. 3 ministry-stamped permits. Right, I don't have that right now, I don't think. Ministry-stamped permits are under possessions. I believe I spent them all. Yes, I don't have any. See, I believe menaces would be kept under the profile. Peculiarities, perhaps? Yearning burning? Where is that displayed? I don't know how much yearning burning you can acquire before it becomes very damaging to you. I don't think it's a possession. 2 out of 5 for London port reports. The incautious driver searching for verdant fragment is up to 70. That's good. Alright, we won't get to know. Let's hurry away. What about the Terpsichore vault? Vaults below are safer, protected by a dozen layers of stained glass. Beneath the machine-bristling surface, you find a ring of 9 vault doors, each engraved with the name of a classical muse. 8 are locked and barred behind signs things like vacant or under renovation, or in one case, unfortunate chronological discrepancies. The 9th, marked Terpsichore, is the only door open to you. When you enter, your footsteps ring through dusty barracks and abandoned canteens. These are the engineers' quarters, but they're all on the surface working, except one. The broken steward has been working on the sun since before it first shone. She has been here far, far longer than any of the engineers above. 3 permits for the half-glass empty. Let's have a chat. She catches you glancing at her mouth and smiles even wider. Her teeth are shards of cracked glass, protruding at odd angles from her gums. It's not just the teeth, she says, with a brusque air that brooks no sympathy. Damned sun turned my bones as well. Terrible nuisance, really. It gets in the way of work. You notice her fixed neck, her stiff limbs, her careful movements. It's not too bad, she says. Good thing I like soup. Back out into the poison light. I think we're done here, by and large. The commissary, yes, we can get fuel, but we cannot actually get supply. So, yes, the Clockwork Sun is a horror, as I intimated earlier. I think with our limited supply, we need to be making our way back to London, which is a bit of a conservative way of doing things, but it's not wrong. It would not do well for us to starve out in the skies of Albion. And we have precious little supply. That is a glorious dreadnought. We're not going to screw with that. Down to half rations. This is about the right heading. So long as there's not a giant block in the way, it won't be a big deal. If there is a giant block in the way, we might have to deal with low supplies issues. Let's see how this goes. Let's go south of this. I need to be setting out with more supplies at a time if it's going to be like this. Because I have not done a whole lot. Got a good bit more Albion exploration to get done. London falters here. The sky becomes stony, its path barred by sudden crags. It looks like we'll be able to make it back to port with minimal obstacle. Come on now. Yeah. I'll need to find a few more things. I think you can get supplies at the floating parliament. The Reach is very nice. There are a lot of ports in the Reach that have both supplies and fuel. In Albion, it's usually one or the other. Getting into the last of my coffee, too. Won't that be dreadful? all of these buildings are conspiring to make my path back the longest it can possibly be. I think I come in south around and turn into St. Dominic Station, but we have enough supply to get there. There's the Spitalfields Market. That's good. Here we are. Plenty of supplies to spare. That's another ship in the way. This is the wrong station. Oh my goodness, what a troll. Okay, I did mildly run out of supplies, but it didn't trigger an event, so we're okay. Okay, there's the first things first, so to speak. You need bombazine, fireworks for Parliament, 3 carefully packed crates of sufficiently dangerous munitions. Floating Parliament lies to the west of London. Cool. They need just 3, so we'll only hold on to 3. We do have a caged catch, which I believe is, I think that makes it possible to try a plotted escape. Barrel of Hours, a caged catch, and a Sky Story. 57% chance of success. Do we have officers who are better at veils? Oop. Huh? Hold. When your captain no longer meets the requirement for some of your locomotive equipment. Ah, I see. We've just made ourselves ineligible for the KV by changing our officers around, but we'll make another exchange soon. Iron and Veils, Hearts of Veils. This is more Veils. We've just disqualified ourselves for the Sensible Plumbing because we've lost Hearts. I can't unequip that without losing crew members, so we'll be switching that back over. Irons and 6 Veils. There we go. That mascot is only for Hearts. So, with our boosted Veils here, I think we still can't equip the KV? Not right now. So, with the boosted Veils, the escape gets up to 68% success rate. So let's take a couple things out of the bank and see if we can give that a shot. Come on. Got it. Your heist proceeds without a hitch. By its end, there is a smoking hole in the side of the jail, from which inmates scatter. Most of the guards are still attempting to exit their command posts, slowed by a tide of hours, and your caged catch, now uncaged, is rampaging in a manner likely to keep the rest of the guards thoroughly occupied. You and the vagabond remove your disguises and burst into Ratbite's cell, dragging her from the smoke and the chaos. The vagabond is racked with laughter as you return to the engine with Ratbite stumbling between you. The vagabond's respect for you has grown. All right. I don't have anything to throw back at the bank as a result of that, but change my officers back over. Let's see, I have not enough iron for that now, so the other change I made was here. There we go. And there we go. Everybody wants munitions. No, I just keep taking the munitions opportunities. They keep coming up. Let's talk further with the vagabond. Talk to Ratbite over dinner. Once she's eaten, she'll tell you what she knows about quivers. You, Ratbite, and the vagabond dine together. The vagabond is laughing raucously, telling horrible jokes. Ratbite says little. She's gaunt, hollow-eyed, all sharp angles and scars. Quivers was obsessed with fairy tales, she tells you. He said there was some skylark signs scattered around the skies that no one knew the meaning of, not even the oldest skylarks. He believed they'd lead him right to the sugar-spun garden if he could translate them. She pulls a small notebook from her pocket. He left this with me. He'd collected all the undeciphered signs except one. Last I heard, he was headed to Achlis to find it. I have no idea where Achlis is. Okay. Peculiar. Oh, I'm not gonna go for another prospect. I could buy the assaying device. That's not a bad idea. Let's see. I think the assaying device is maybe better in... While I'm in London, the assaying device should be more useful than the drill. I don't think there's very much to drill around here at all. And I'll bank that in a moment. I'll bank the drill in a moment. Let's see. Well, we already have sensible plumbing, don't we? And we never bought cramped quarters. It's not worthwhile. The Portsmouth House Jubilee is something very cool that we might save up for. The Sneeze Lurker is also very helpful. So we probably want to be saving up for a weapon next. Just to be more capable in general. For now, though, I want to be really well stocked. Yeah. I recall you were saying that Jubilee is the one that can be detonated after you've set it out. Very intriguing. I think a lot of things will shine with the Aggravate. It's a very powerful ship. Let's see. I'm still looking to build up port reports in Albion, so I won't be turning these in for a while. I think next stop then would be to try and find the Parliament, which will be off to the west roughly, and turn in these munitions as fireworks. Discovery of London. Another facet. Red and gold, family footsteps below stairs. The bell tolls. Oh, I could have foreseen my own death. Or I could have fought in the Battle of the Winchester War. Tale of terror there, veils, mirrors. An interlude in red and gold, I think. Losing your mind. Once, they put you in a splendid hotel managed by a cheery gentleman who would determine when you could leave. How colorful the other guests were, how red the curtains, how gold the fittings, how secure the locks. Eventually you were allowed to leave. But was your recovery genuine? No, you just learned to lie. You said what you had to, and they sent you home. Even now, your world is red and gold and splendid. Let's be interesting. Ah, this is the throne of ours. Since I'm not turning in port reports for now, it'll be a while before I acquire the ministry stamp permits I would need in order to free the half-glass empty, but we won't be back to the Clockwork Sun for a good long while. The strength of the sun is currently at 80, so I'm not very worried. I think bad things can happen if the strength of the sun gets too low, and it does deplete on its own over time. In a previous playthrough on another captain, bit of a crooked bell toll that, I believe I had fully repaired the Clockwork Sun once. I wonder if distortions of time triggered the Doppler effect in strange ways. That would certainly explain the peculiar timbre of the bell being distorted as though it's moving closer and further away, because it takes less or more time for the sound to reach you, distorting the waves. That may be an excessively scientific explanation given the way the world works here. That doesn't look like a collision. Okay, free to sail over this. Yes, still free to sail over that, pretty sure. That is a deranged dreadnought that I have just collided with and taken immense damage. Bye! That was really bad. We lost half of our hull in that little exchange. Ow. Okay. I really did not want to drift directly into that guy, but I jilted myself the wrong direction. Q and E give you this quick strafing maneuver, and I sometimes struggle to keep the right arrangement and understand how that's going to move me. Yeah. Alright, what have we here? Some ruin? Boxy shapes tumble in the sky. Paupers' coffins. Humble wooden coffins pepper the sky here. This is a bully's acre, a pauper's graveyard. There's little room for the dead in London. Let's pay our respects. More hull damage. A hush falls as coffins pass by the windows. The silence is broken by an insistent scraping against the hull. One of the coffins has floated too close. A few words are necessary to assuage your crew's unease. You remind all present that were it not for the competence and efficiency of all aboard, a cold grave in the sky might have been all your fates. Okay. I still very theoretically have the supplies and fuel to press onward and find my intended destination. So long as I don't get hooked back around and funneled into an uncomfortable combat, which seems to be perhaps the reality, because it looks like I have to get through some sort of conflict over there if I want to get any further. A windswept habitation. The enterprise of Albion does not rest. Its skies are littered with abandoned construction, derelict factories from its earliest foundation, homes that have yet to be lived in, workshops for industries that proved irrelevant in the heavens. Here is a tenement of empty housing that has never been occupied, rests quietly beneath a blanket of dust. I'll search for something of value. Cups and saucers, bowls and plates, a butter dish, 2 crates of nostalgic crockery. Okay, let's see. I think I'm just gonna make my way back into London. I honestly don't feel good about being around Albion with 30 hull damage sitting. Considering that I took 30 hull damage. Of course, 30 hull damage would be the entirety of the hull of the basic vessel. So there's that. Do be careful. We have sovereigns enough to take a loss in terms of just turning around, repairing, and restocking. We're somewhat insane, but not incautious. Our driver is incautious. Actually, I don't have him at the helm right now. Theoretically. Yeah, you'd best not take the starter locomotive out into Albion. It's a bad idea. You'll be cruising for a bruising if you do. It's the wrong turn. What's the hull on the Moloch? Isn't it absurd? Are you working with like 150 hull? Okay. We're back. Full repair, same cost as it is otherwise. I have less than I thought I did. Restocked somewhat. Well, setting back out, and I am going more or less the same direction. 95. Yeah, I think for an ambition of wealth, if I go beyond the Agravain, I'd be very surprised at myself. I think Parliament is going to be out here. Let's see. Suppose I could swing around the north just to explore a bit more. I still need to identify more ports. I need to find Verdurance and the Mausoleum, at the very least. Yeah, I think that the Moloch is considered a luxury liner. I think it gets more in the way of crew, doesn't it? That tends to be the translation, that like luxury and transport usually refers to cargo space and crew count. The Mausoleum is generally very close to London, I think. Laidlaw's Coffee House. That looks like we can go under it. We can't. Oh, 3 bridge and 2 utility. 3 bridge slots is insane. I don't know that I've ever found nearly that a use for that many bridge slots. That much crew and hold space, if you actually go to capacity, it must be quite expensive to sail. Good. Bit of fuel and nothing aggressive. Let's get to scouting. Aha! Something discovered in the north. If we could come across either Perdurance or Mausoleum, that would be excellent. Let's see. Find star-seared explorers instead. Oh, that's a star-maddened explorer. The good old kind. Line up and let it go. Take shots at it once it crashes. Royal Society would be nice. Captain's logs. Sky story and 46 sovereigns, not bad. There is a lot of cool stuff to do in the Royal Society. Mostly the Royal Society gives you access to certain rare components. I hate these foggy parts of sky. We could have fun here. His definition might not match yours. Yes, I believe the foggy parts of sky are home to the Royal Society and Warlebury Juxtamare. This looks like Warlebury to me. Yep. Palace Pier. Workers in neat uniforms guide your locomotive to rest. Tourist engines rest alongside trading engines. Crews trade gossip and delicacies. Signs in block capitals make abundantly clear that this is a place for pleasure. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's right, that's right. The Royal Society has a lot of weird options. Bypass the queue at the insistence of the authorities. Okay, so you can exchange ministry-approved literature for condemned experiments here, using 5 ministry-approved literature to get some. All right. By the way, what do they have available here? They've got a bargain on munitions. I always seem to be carrying those, and they seem to be a bargain everywhere. We can get fuel and supplies here. Given its placement in the sky, if I'm taking a trip around the northern edge or just exploring this region in general, it's going to be very useful. They are also an exporter of ministry-approved literature. This is the first place I can acquire that reliably. Back to Palace Pier. Welcome. Bypass the queue at the insistence of the authorities. The representative of the Bureau of Entertainments introduces himself. We are a department of the Ministry of Public Decency, but we're entirely autonomous. We run this port for the benefit of weary travelers. He leads you past a queue that doesn't even bother to grumble. Yes, I know, queue jumping is terribly uncouth, but would you really rather be mingling with the proletariat when you could be enjoying our port? And I'm sure once you've seen what we have to offer, you'll need to come back again. He leads you to a fitting station. Everyone goes through this. There's a dress code. The Bureau of Entertainments wishes to encourage industrious captains to patronize the port. To this end, on a captain's first visit, they're allowed in both without charge and without having to queue. The couturier is exquisitely attired. Burgundy tailcoat, cravat, brocaded vest in iron and ink, breeches, boots, and a smile like a shark. Periodically, he checks a brass pocket watch while his grin lengthens and diminishes in turns. He is here to supervise the attire of new visitors to the port. In Warlebury, everyone dresses up in the heady styles of 50 years ago. The Bureau of Entertainments provides suitable attire for all visitors. What article of clothing are you going to base your choice of outfit around? Your choice of outfit has no impact on the port. It is merely an outlet for your whimsy. I will get some fabulous footwear. Footwear is possibly the most avant-garde, with fashions that border on ludicrous. Exciting! It is the couturier who goes to his knees, latticing your foot between his long fingers, in the frame of his black-on-black eyes. Your reflection is that of a stranger's, wild and otherworldly. A personal touch is all he says. The couturier does not permit you to rise, nor does he allow you to pick your shoes. Instead, he ferries you options to sift through. High heels, sensible clogs, equestrian boots in the softest leather, open-toed slippers, sandals teased together from gold wires. When he is finally satisfied, he considers you for a long moment. He turns to a wardrobe and hands you several garments, all your size. Once you're dressed, he dismisses you, shooing you into Warlebury Juxtamare. The condition of your clothes will limit your time in Warlebury. There is more to Warlebury Juxtamare than meets the eye. It is precisely like every other weekend destination, shabbier than advertised and bristling with ways to spend more money than intended. First, we'll write a port report. In the face of candy floss, guards are let down. Candy floss is just another name for cotton candy. Presented with this much tea, defenses are dropped. This should have been a good place to gather information. Unfortunately, the screams of the donkeys render eavesdropping impossible. Still, even by itself, a list of visitors is certainly worth something. Let's check for the verdant fragment, first of all. Alternative opportunity in the off-season if you have located. Let's see. An exclusive exhibition of portraits. Tired, familiar with the portraitist. For affiliation with Bohemia. Okay. Alright. Still no verdant fragment here. No sign in Warlebury Juxtamare. A babble of shops and stalls sears the gaze with bold, mismatched colors. A macaron store. Delighted, you bustle towards the cramped stall, shouldering past an old man in a top hat. But before you can accost a shopkeeper, You realize they're actually just cardboard cutouts. Badly painted ones, too. How disappointing. The longer you spend at Warlebury Juxtamare, the easier it is to spot the flaws in the facade. There, another detail not quite right. Let's stop at a charming tea room. Tea is always a good idea. In a universe of horrors, tea is never wrong. Earl Green is the specialty here. Except for a vegetable aftertaste, a radishy quality, it is mostly inoffensive. The tea room has an industrial air. White marble, black steel. Everyone is silent. Everyone but you is dressed precisely the same way. Black suits, white masks. It appears traditional for patrons here to abscond with one piece of cutlery, something you can slip into your pocket. A teaspoon, a butter knife, the little pot for the jam. Whatever best reminds them of the tea room. As such, you do the same. No reason to be impolite. Ponder that strange, unearthly taste. A residue persists from that last cup of tea. A flavor like roasted chestnuts in the color blue, like absinthe brewed in the belly of a star. Come on. Yes! The sour tang of that last sip resides in your palate, in the oily coating on your tongue. It is like, but entirely dissimilar to, the more familiar teas of London. It would go magnificently with a fresh scone, some aunt-manufactured jam. The aroma is fundamentally incorrect. The citrus notes mingle with the nostalgia for a time that's never been. The warm spices heighten the anxiety that bubbles with every sip. This tea remembers how it will come to be made. It is a struggle to ignore the details. In a place so bright and joy-filled, it's easy to be distracted. Whatever it was you'd noticed about Warlebury Juxtamare, it's gone now. You've gained 5 terror. I do love the little slip-ins of references to odd aunts and things. Well, let us succumb to the wiles of a rubbery lump cellar. A wax paper cone brimming with rubbery lumps sounds just about perfect. As you spot what is not right, you start to see what is actually there. It tastes precisely as advertised. Hot, rubbery, faintly sweet, with a dashing of mirin and brown sugar, and an aftertaste reminiscent of roasted berries, like a memory of better days. You graze on a palm full of lumps before you put the rest away. Your clothes are threadbare. You are scruffy. I think your aunt is an available officer in Sunless Skies. I don't recall, though. Was your aunt an officer in Sunless Seas? Your aunt is an officer in one of the games. I think it might be Seas, though. Oh, man. Your aunt is such a storied character, no matter what seems to be happening. Let's see. Path to the beach. Oh, if she was I think she's only an officer in one of the 2 games. This is a beach. Of course, it is a beach. What else could it be? It is a stretch of pale particulates and roiling mists. The air smells of salt and things that mummified in the sun, of cinnamon and licorice. It is pebbles and grains of blue glass, tendrils of something curious and organic, worm-like growths tufting through the sediment. This is exactly what beaches are. Let's see. We have one more attired for Warlebury Juxtamare. We have one Warlebury weirdness. It takes a bit of gossip. Rich totter around the port, sneering. Their eyes are an affectation, a mimicry of the mist change done to long-term port workers. If you convince them you're their peer, they'll help to pare the lies away. Seeing with new eyes. A giggling creche of aristocrats stand waiting by the water, their stained glass eyes incandescent. Sea glass, they say when you ask, hand gathered in the mists, hand inserted by specialists. Your gossip makes them shriek with laughter. When they're finished relishing another's misfortune, they take you by the arms and legs. One, with more delicacy than you'd expect, peels your eyelids apart. Someone gently whispers, "This will only hurt a little." It's a lie. When the tears finally stop flowing, you can see more clearly. the port's naive attempts to be anything but what it is. Let us return. Let's see. If I explore the lane again, what will change? This stall has a row of wooden ducks that you could shoot at with an air rifle. A child stands alongside it crying. He has spent all his money and not knocked down one. When you have a go, it becomes apparent that at least one of the ducks is glued in place. When you point this out, shopkeeper frowns and hastily passes you a prize. It's time to be elsewhere. We have to leave. Our clothes are in tatters. Let's see. I can supply them 2 uncanny specimens, or a crate of nostalgic crockery. What about the lottery? The queue snakes across the lip of the docks like an umbilical cord, or a garland. Scalpers bark temptations, promising expedited access. Vendors patrol the undulations of the line, offering drinks, snacks, anything to spare the mind from the doldrums. Finally, a woman in tattered morning attire answers. It's every fortnight, more or less. You'll want to be near the front. They only give out a few passes. You don't want to dilute the quality of the clientele, I hear. It appears you'll have to come back later if you want to get in via the Pauper's Pass. So there are a few different ways in here. If you've done work for those important in the ministry, they will have heard of you. You'll need to have this at least 4 before you can use your favor with the chairman. Okay. You can pay 250 sovereigns to get in. It's ludicrously overpriced. I'm going to pass them some uncanny specimens and go back in. For the outfit, this time we'll take a hat, and we're just going to kind of, go through. Let's see. The tiny lane once again. A woman calls you over to a stall selling toffee something. They're a little too large to be apples. She assures you with a broad smile that, of course, they're apples. Maybe you haven't seen one recently and can't recall how they look. Some of the toffee has fingerprints in. Still, that child bedecked in frills seems to be eating some without suffering any obvious harm. Consider the strangeness of the lanes. 100% chance of success. It is most likely the smiles, maybe. Carnivore expressions, syrupy and gleaming. Faultless mirrors of the couturier's dazzling grin. Or maybe it is the second-rate souvenirs cobbled from haberdashery and children's nightmares. The arsenic aftertaste of the candy floss. The wine-wild quality of the local perfumes. Could be anything. Could just be your insecurities. The error of your existence. Whatever the case, the lanes continue their watch. Politely, of course. Whatever it was you'd noticed about Orlebury Juxtamare, it's gone now. We gained a savage secret, a gourd of chorister nectar and salon-stewed gossip. The gnarled door, you say, unlocked with Warlebury weirdness too. The door slides like a thief into the periphery of your vision, too short to enter unless you crawl. You pry the door open. Inside's the throat of a short tunnel, connective tissue really, leading out into a star-swallowed twilight. Press down. It sticks to you, vernix and the warm reek of intestinal meat, gelatinous and insistent that you remain where you are. Perhaps it is the Sisyphean nature of the travel, perhaps it's carelessness. Whatever it is, the voice of the man ahead of you, salt dry and salt cold, comes as a surprise. You're late for the sermon too, he hisses. We mustn't be late for the sermon. His hand grasps yours, tugs you through a translucent membrane, across the path through church doors. You don't have time to observe the port. The air seizes you, cold as a corpse's kiss, and something about it is wrong. The bedraggled parson stands before his people, palms raised. Today we stand before they who must grieve, to give praise to their sacrifice. Without them there would be no joy, No agony against which we might juxtapose the sweetness of our existence. Do not ever forget this. If you forget all else, do not forget this. He raises his eyebrows at you. A pleasure to see a new member. Please join us later on the beach. Let's listen to the murmuring sermon. You find a seat among the parishioners, their skin whorled with strange patterns, tentacular calligraphy that might quite possibly be flesh. The bedraggled parson paces across his stage, lit up from behind by his reverence, his conviction in the sutras of his speech. Here is a man assured in his precise place in the universe. And remember, next Tuesday, a baptism at the Mists. All those looking to experience a closer connection with they who must grieve, come down to shore. You lean over to whisper to a diminutive old woman, her hair swaddled in gold filigree. Upon closer inspection, it becomes evident that it isn't hair that sits atop her skull, but thousands of delicate cilia. Still, aside from that one anomaly, the woman seems normal and generous with her attention. I like coming here. The parson's got a good heart. No idea what he's trying to say sometimes, but he's got a good heart. He wants us to rise up, rise beyond who we are and what we are. We've just got to give ourselves to they who must grieve. That's how I got this. She strokes her hair. In the mists. She leans in. But honestly, I'm only here because the parson's a pretty one. The cultist on the left. You share a quick dialogue with a restless-seeming individual of indeterminate age, gender, and species. Hello, they burble gently at you, their voice like a chorus of brooks. You're new. When they speak, you can see that they do not, in fact, have tongues, but a mouth like the inside of an intestine, soft with pale villi. Perhaps this is why they sound the way they do. The Bureau does not like me in Warleybury. Looks the matter. They don't even like me in the off-season. But I have seen they who must grieve, and I will remember that day always. It transformed my body, my mind, my heart. An unexpected intrusion. There is little resistance from the congregation. Oh, I should read this part first. The bedraggled parson stands before his people, palms raised. Oh no, I think I've already... here we go. He clears his throat before the parturition of the first syllable. Officials from the Bureau of Entertainment swarm into the chapel, howling like blood-drunk wolves. There is little resistance from the congregation, merely an affected resignation. The officers from the Bureau of Entertainments are civil as they evict the crowd. Once they've surmised that you do not belong, the officers leave you largely alone, occupying themselves instead with the task of extricating the parishioners. The bedraggled parson's disciples cooperate with only minimal contempt, moving where they're told, answering questions when they're asked. All in all, a courteous disruption. Come on then, let's go, let's go. The rictus smiles of the officers are identical in their splendor, as is the exquisiteness of their uniforms, the oiled shine of their dark hair. The Bureau of Entertainment is the branch of the Ministry of Public Decency responsible for the well-being and upkeep of Warleybury Juxtamare. They take their duty seriously. I'll go quietly. Marched back to Warleybury Juxtamare. You really should have said something, coos a woman, box-shouldered, fetchingly crocodilian, her smile something scrimshawed into her jaw. Why didn't you say something? Oh well, too late now. The bruises are charming, I promise. Now off with you, back to Warleybury, back to civilization. She thrusts you through the exit, bolts the door behind you. The journey burns like the birth of a star, boils beneath your muscle. I have the option of betraying the cult to forge a different alliance. Just entering the office is not a betrayal. I can slide across to the off-season. It bleeds from your teeth, the story that grants you passage, guilt-grinded and sour. Let's slide across. You tell a passerby a story they'd not expected, something raw, profoundly and audaciously private. They gasp and the air jumps, irises into a door like a wicker tunnel strung with fairy lights. You dash through and the air feels membranous, stinks of burning wire. It is a wall of mucus 2 feet thick, and it calls your eyes in oil-slick rainbows. The off-season. Warlebury Juxtamare has become a corpse. The run-down bones of its forgotten attractions swarm with bedraggled men and women, all armed with cleaning equipment. This is where the workers of Warlebury live and labor to create the gaudy frontage seen by tourists. The beach is now a decaying mess, visited only by the cultists who attend the chapel there. To linger here, you'll need to work. Labor is poorly paid. Take other workers' jobs too often, and they'll firmly encourage you to depart. Let's take a walk along the beach. Beach in the off-season. We can visit the cult. We can divest the donkeys of their eggs. I didn't go by the donkeys. They're not donkeys. Let's see. A word with the parson. His voice is water, warm, hypnotic. They were kind to you, the draggled parson says, abruptly and without vitriol. Only a pale wonder, eyes fever-warm under the wilds of his hair. It is all he extends. Was he talking about the officials from the Bureau of Entertainments, or someone else? A request. They're so lonely, all of them. Empty but for the grief in their ribs. If only they'd come here. Find them, he burbles. Find them. Find the lonely, the broken-hearted, the barely breathing, the ones who'd think this port could ever save them. Find them. Tell them about they who must grieve. About us. About how love can turn in the heart like a key and open the soul to the universe. Speak to them of change. Tell them. Tell them. The words seep from the bedraggled parson, tie themselves into gibberish, nonsense sounds, like a spill of cold water on glass. For minutes he is inchoate. Then, you need clothes. The cultists cram you into second-hand finery, shabby but serviceable. Now you are suitably attired. They bundle you across the off-season and through a door to Warlebury. The membrane blocking it shivers and twitches, reluctantly allowing you to pass through. Time tingles on your skin for several minutes after your arrival. Because of the manipulations of time, the on-season and the off-season intermingle. There are 2 ways to gather new members of the cult. We can either use visions of the heaven, which we will only lose if we fail, interestingly, or we can gather them up with sky stories and salon stewed gossip. Looks like it's 2 of each. I'm going to try using visions of the heaven. A man, a woman, teenagers lanky as hounds, a couple too old for the weight of their years. They listen to the sutras and scriptures of transformation you repeat, their entire bodies poured into the act. Something in the words sings to them, and one by one they say yes, yes, and yes again, discreet in their reverence. You give them directions to the cult's headquarters and pats on the shoulder. They receive your attention with the gratitude of children. Looks like I need to go back to the off-season in order to get anything out of this. So you wind up burning a lot of savage secrets doing this, but it's interesting. A walk along the beach. Let's visit the cult. The results of the recruitment mission. Thank you, says the bedraggled parson, tone milk mild. He gestures, an inflection of the hand that draws the eye to a swath of new faces, each tendril-haired, paraffin pale and without expression. Then one laughs jerkily, fingers picking at the crowd, at their chewed-down hems, and it becomes clear who they are. They who must grieve is soothed by their presence, as they are by their contact with the numinous. A susurrant echo, the parish is repeating his every word. The cult has another task for me. Agree to visit the Avid Horizon. Bundle of leaflets to go to the Avid Horizon. Back to the beach, in the off-season. I'm gonna mess with the donkeys for a moment. Failure. I think this gives terror. The donkeys, due to an error in their genetics, will lay eggs without cessation. Unfortunately, they will not detach from the donkeys' underbellies, and it is the task of those working in the off-season to remove them. You work for hours flensing eggs from the growling sulfuride quadrupeds. At some point, your hand slips, your blade digs down. You pierce a handful of jellied eggs, and their denizens dribble across your body, curls of milk-pale flesh and staring, sightless eyes. The smell is eye-watering. You gain 2 tales of terror. Let's see, I'm not good at most of the things here. I'll try to feed the lanes. No, we're really not good at this work. We're better at actually getting gains from the dock, or from the main area, because we can walk around, perceive the weirdness, and get something out of it, and that's usually our easier way of making any kind of advancements in Warlebury Juxtamare. We don't have that much hold space right now. What are we holding? We picked up some caddies of dried tea. We got some chorister nectar. Actually, I think among my officers, I can use chorister nectar to restore the clay conductor's voice. You've overheard him attempting to sing, but he gave up quickly. His voice was gravelly and out of practice. Some nectar might help lubricate the vocal cords. The clay conductor fetches a spoon and several lumps of sugar. He mashes the lumps into the honey, then gargles the concoction. When he's done, you wrangle a little of his past from him. The clay conductor was in the clay choirs. His dead companion was a very talented clay chorister? Okay, chorister or chor... I see. It's related to choirs, so I should probably be pronouncing it, chorister? Chorister. Yeah. So I don't pronounce the CH. I have hopes of finding someone with as good a voice again. One cannot be a chorus alone. I've heard tell of a clayman in the most serene mausoleum. The clay conductor tails off, clearly desiring your assistance, but unsure how to formulate the question. He stares at his feet instead. Okay. Bit of a game. They need to go to Perdurance. The Vagabond. He needed to go to Achlis. Fortunate Navigator needs to go... Okay, I think I have everything more or less in accord. I have 3 open spaces. So I'll get one of each of these, and I'll have a little bit of room left. Okay. I'm going to undock. There we go. House of Hughes. Your crew begins singing around about the seaside. Does this count as mutiny? I think there's one more thing to discover if I sail over this part. Maybe not? Okay. I need to be very careful about what I do in this very, very misty area. I remember there being some stuff out here that I don't necessarily want to run into. It's a weird place. I'll come back and doubtless come across that stuff later. It's a very unpleasant patch of sky. See, I don't want to fly straight for the smog if I can avoid it. I don't recall if the smog has any particular effect. I just don't want to. Okay, this is the general heading I want to be taking, I think. The sky is deep here, and the winds are hollow. outbreak of the heart sickness. Nostalgia has lifted the veils that normally hide their hearts. They speak of the things they left behind, the things they regret, the things they wish they'd done differently. I've done this before. Good to get a couple savage secrets. Oh! What do we have out here? Is this the Well of the Wolf? That's a bull cantankery over there. We need one of these in London. It would make for a prettier sky. Where is the docking point? It is the Well of the Wolf. Well, I just need to find the dock point here. I have business at the Well of the Wolf, unfortunately. We do not fly into the middle. That's a hard rule. There's a curator out there. I saw it for a bit. I think the dock point is that little platform. It just didn't trigger a moment ago. I'm building up a bunch of terror being around here. Good for your lungs. I think I might need to be over here. No? What the heck? I'm not flying. I'm leaving this thing. I'll come back later. Forget about the repentant devil. He doesn't need it that bad. Ugh. I've never actually flown into the center of a well. Is it just damage or instant death? Oh look, some dried tea. Let's give him a little love tap. He's not going to come back around to get me soon. That being said, that was not a very difficult trek to the Well of the Wolf. We can come back there without too much trouble. Yeah, I think I'll try and do that with a cheap ship on a later captain. Tuxedo Point. Bunch of broken stuff. I think that's probably Parliament down to the south there. Ah! That is a guest. Ouch. That thing there, flinging all the black sludge and weirdness at me, with the tendrils popping out of it. That's the sort of thing that I've been trying very much to avoid. I don't want to deal with it in dreadnought form. If I wanted to hunt them, I should be going after the tackety varieties back in the Reach. Yes, definitely. If commoners could rule, they wouldn't need royalty. The princess knows she is not threatened by Parliament. There we go. Parliament. A well-due bit of terror reduction. Certainly need that. Cromwell's Gate, first of all. Fireworks. A completed prospect. Ah, a moment of inspiration. A zealous undersecretary is already planning next year's Guy Fawkes Night, a vital celebration of parliamentary democracy and high explosives. He wants the festival's fireworks to be seen and heard all the way to London, and is prepared to pay well for 3 carefully packed crates of sufficiently dangerous munitions. The undersecretary asks probing, inexpert questions about the yield, lumens, and the decibels of your delivery. I want them to rattle Her Majesty's china, he admits savagely. Okay. We can buy caddies of dried tea here as well. This is also an exporter of crates of nostalgic crockery. One of our first opportunities to get it. Here at the Palace of Highminster, we'll compile a port report. Parliament has seen better days. While the palace is off limits to most, there are always ministers and civil servants whose busy schedules allow for a moment for a free drink. You ask the obvious question, what is the point of Parliament when Her Renewed Majesty never gives her assent to any of its proposed laws? They bristle. Tyrants fall, democracy endures. Excuse me, a minute of your time. The smiling man wearing the yellow rosette cuts in first. Captain, join our campaign to celebrate Albion and restore old-school patriotism to the land by officially renaming Wednesday as Victoria's Day. Praise Her Renewed Majesty for all she has... The smiling woman wearing the green rosette effortlessly cuts in. For killing democracy, for our subjugation? No, Captain. We must make a stand for freedom. We must show the Empress that we will not just sit idly. Join us as we triumphantly rename her precious Victoria's sponge to the People's Cake. I'm going to keep walking. What a ridiculous waste of time. The two of them show no interest in following you. They continue looking for new arrivals willing to take part in the process, presumably ones who don't know full well that Parliament hasn't been in a position to pass laws for years. You are advancing your parliamentary career. Explore Traitor's Green. It was originally named for Cromwell. Someone clearly holds a grudge. The replanted gardens are a pleasant place to enjoy a walk, though the buildings are out of bounds to casual visitors. The Empress's Gate is particularly fortified by a heavy chain and padlock too rusted to ever be unlocked. A few protesters are taking a break to picnic on the lawn, away from the guards. Braver or more foolhardy ones sit on the aisle's edge, swinging their legs over the sky as they eat their sandwiches. It's near them that you spot the fellow in the suit, swaying uncertainly. His footsteps have taken him precariously close to the edge. Nobody seems to have noticed. Mr. Darwin would no doubt approve as we sit back and watch. The drunk man peers over the edge and begins relieving himself. Finished and content, he bends over to adjust his clothing and topples over into the abyss. A small army of civil servants soon swarms from the nearest gate, peering over and already arguing over who will buy the memorial sapling. They do not seem particularly shocked or surprised, merely inconvenienced. A tap on your shoulder distracts you. Excuse us. He glances you up and down. Yes, very suitable. Moment of your time. He sits at a huge mahogany desk in prestigious Downing corridor. Your conversation doesn't distract him from writing notes in the margins of endless pieces of paperwork. He pauses his scribbling only to sip from a large cup of stone-cold tea, or to scratch his head with the pen's long silver nib. He looks down his nose at you with the grim expression of a headmaster waiting for an excuse to break out his favorite birch rod. Ah, Captain, a moment. Do take a seat. Tea. Ah, yes, I will call for some tea. The loss of our dear minister for... He hesitates, covertly checking a file. Warlebury Juxtamer. Yes, is a tragedy. We must move on. You seem just the sort I'm looking for. Lucid. Breathing. Have you considered a career in politics? He holds up a hand. No, I do not care about history or affiliations. A bum in the chair will suffice. The Department of Albion Affairs would be a suitable starting point. If you're interested, I will set the wheels in motion. You've been invited to become an MP. We find the verdant fragment. Got it. The driver sniffs the air for any hint of loose verdant spores dragged in by passing travelers. I can taste something. A fear. Not death, but the loss of something important. The fragment doesn't want to return. It doesn't want to give up what it's become. They close their eyes, focusing. I can taste its design as well. Its host knew of a place called Hostrup Deep, a desolate corner of the sky. It meant to hide there. The deep will be hard to find. When we're close, we'll need to use our scout. Deep lies to the east-northeast of London. That would be somewhat near the Clockwork Sun. But it needs to be found using a scout, because it's extra special secret. Well, let's observe the people's perpetual protest. Parliament has little power, but at least there's a chance it might listen. That is more than protesters can expect at the throne of ours. Protesters raise their voices with a spirit of camaraderie and a united belief that words can still make the world a better place, with neither anger in their words nor violence in their demands. At 3 on the dot, the huge portcullis opens, and the protesters are served tea, scones, and little cucumber sandwiches cut into triangles, a little recognition of the protesters' ongoing service to this most vital point of British democracy. I have better things to do with my time. Your terror has fallen. Let's see, I think there's not much more we can do around here. Not at... Palace of Highminster... Okay, no, it seems as though we are currently stuck. I think this can proceed if we leave and return. It didn't seem as though I got any sort of actual objective. No, there's not really anything new here. 2 caddies of dry tea, I can take care of that. I need to head back there at some point. No, there it is. Politics and Navish tricks. Been invited to become an MP. Election called. A parliamentary seat is available in Warlebury-Juxtamare. Okay, I need to go to Warlebury-Juxtamare in order to get a parliamentary seat. I think ordinarily we would go past Brabazon and back to London. 2, 3, 4. I only need to find one more location to have the 5 port reports necessary to advance the plot line for the fatalistic signaler. And we haven't done anything in the south yet. Certainly we will soon. I'd probably be making my way back to Brabazon soon. I can get supplies in Parliament and fuel at Brabazon. So, let's see. We'll actually stock up on quite a bit of supplies. We can get quite a bit of fuel over there, and that will fund further exploration, but that will be a matter for next time. My voice is starting to go a little hoarse, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. I'm planning to be back online, perhaps for Friday with this game, but since we forestalled on playing Metroid Dread for today, I might be taking that back up instead later in the week. Per the usual, the latter half of Friday, we're going to be playing a mix of Dead by Daylight and Evil Dead, the game, depending on which one happens to be least frustrating at the moment. Each of them kind of has their moments. For now, this has been Jupiter Exile, and I hope we wander again soon. Good night.